be taken on the following items at the regular council meeting on Tuesday, August 27th, 2024, in Council Chambers, Sparta Township Municipal Building, 65 Main Street, Sparta, New Jersey. The time is 7:10. The Town Council executive session was opened and then closed. It started at 6. The regular meeting is opened at 7:10 p.m. All council meetings are now live streamed and can be viewed at the following link, www.youtube.com/SpartaTWP/streams. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided to the public and press on January 5th, 2024, by delivering to the press and posting on the Township website a copy of the notice. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Hertzberg.
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello.
I'm here.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here. All right, let's all stand and salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And because we had an executive session, I do need to read the resolution with respect to the executive session. Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Sparta, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of an action upon the hereinafter specified subject matters. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows: litigation, personnel, contract negotiations, miscellaneous legal advice. It is anticipated at this time that the above subject matter will be made public when deemed appropriate. This resolution shall take effect immediately. So with that out of the way, we do have a proclamation tonight involving our sister city, Sparta, Greece, and Councilman Chiarello has really done a lot of work and initiative on this, and so I will let him speak and read the proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I begin, is there anybody here that can speak Greek? No? Okay, because it's in Greek, so maybe we'll just pass on this. I'm kidding. We have it in English too. It's like, as we mentioned, as the mayor mentioned, we were taking steps to try to renew our sister city relationship with Sparta, Greece, so we want to memorialize that with this proclamation. And I'd hope to have someone here that can read the Greek version, but I will just do it in English. The proclamation reads: whereas the city of Sparta, Greece, and the township of Sparta, New Jersey, were originally joined as sister cities in June of 1969. And whereas the mayors and the other officials of Sparta, Greece, and Sparta, New Jersey will meet in September 2024 to exchange meaningful symbols of their communities and extending greetings on behalf of all residents of their communities. And whereas Sparta, Greece, and Sparta, New Jersey have much in common in their size, community characteristics, and government operation. And whereas the bonds of understanding and friendship between Sparta, Greece, and Sparta, New Jersey have been firmly established from the meeting of the two municipalities. Therefore, be it resolved that the Township Council of the Township of Sparta, New Jersey, in Sussex County, and the State of New Jersey, does hereby affirm Sparta, Greece, and Sparta, New Jersey as sister cities in acknowledgement of the continuing friendship between the two communities. Thank you, Mayor. I am happy and very proud to be able to deliver this to our friends in Sparta. On September 7th, I'll be in Greece meeting with them, and I will bring back pictures. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Councilman Chiarello. Next, we have meeting minutes to approve. May I have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of May 28th, 2024? And just as a note, Councilman Hertzberg was not present, so he should abstain from voting. So may I have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of May 28th, 2024?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from May 28th, 2024.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Abstain.
So we have 4 ayes and 1 abstention. Next, may I have a motion to approve the June 11th, 2024 regular meeting minutes as presented?
I move that we approve the regular meeting minutes of June 11, 2024 as presented.
May I have a second, please?
I will second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The regular meeting minutes of June 11th, 2024 are approved. We are now at the section of the meeting involving the manager's report. Mr. Zepp, may I have the manager's report, please?
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and Sparta residents. I am lucky enough to have another firefighter appointment. At the recommendation of Fire Chief Chris Angelucci, I would like to appoint Brendan Shepard as a new member to the Sparta Township Fire Department. Chief Angelucci is confident that Mr. Shepard will fulfill and complete the New Jersey State mandated Firefighter 1 requirement and become a great asset to the department. Fire department is doing pretty well with these volunteers.
Say so.
I know a lot of other towns are struggling, and we are really fortunate to have these volunteers stepping up. I'm also very pleased to report that Christy Ray, our account clerk in the finance department, has successfully passed the New Jersey State Qualified Purchasing Agent exam. Her skills are already greatly utilized in ensuring proper purchase practices are followed by all township departments. As many of you know, the Main Street closure. As you're aware, Main Street is closed for the continued construction of the Q6 bridge replacement with a prospective completion date of December 31st, 2024. The local businesses are open during construction, either via access of Town Center Drive or County Road 517, Glen Road, and Station Park Road. Please continue to patronize our local businesses. In our Public Works Department, DPW performed maintenance work requested by the Board of Education at the high school, with the pouring of a concrete sidewalk and asphalt work completed in their parking lot. By performing this work to DPW, the Sparta taxpayer ultimately benefits. I want to also thank the Public Works Department for sweeping West Shore Trail as part of the County Road 517 last month for the annual Pass It Along Lake Mohawk Country Club Triathlon. In our Parks and Recreation Departments, the fall program activity brochure is out and registration is open for special events, workshops, toddler, youth, and adult programs and clinics. Our seniors are preparing for the next round of Senior Olympics being held in Randolph Township at Veterans Park on September 18th. If any Sparta senior is interested, please call the Recreation Department for availability. The park staff has been working diligently on all municipal properties, keeping up with field maintenance and other small projects, keeping our recreational facilities a place for all residents and visitors to enjoy. Chief McCarrick will now read his portion of the manager's report. This concludes my report. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and Sparta residents.
Thank you, Manager Zepp. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Good evening. Just to start off, we know Labor Day weekend is approaching, and the police department would like to remind everybody to celebrate responsibly. We're going to have extra patrols on the road over the weekend to enforce, obviously, intoxicated drivers. And of course, after Labor Day comes back to school. As you can imagine, it's time of year again. Educators and our children are heading back to school. Our department has been very busy with school staff reviewing their emergency response plans and going over some of the security plans. We'd also like to remind everybody that be cautious while operating your vehicle. Bus stops are going to be out there. There's going to be a lot of children walking to those bus stops. And we also, as the manager mentioned, with the Main Street being closed for the bridge, there will be heavy traffic in town. We know around Town Center Drive and 517. So be mindful of that. As I reported last meeting, we were preparing for our Junior Police Academy. I'm proud to announce that our academy went very well. We graduated approximately 40 recruits, and I must say it really was the best class ever. The recruits were great, and a lot of it has to do with the instruction and keeping them busy and not making them bored while they're there. They had a great time. They came together as a team, and looking forward to next year. Really appreciate all of our sponsors, the Board of Ed for supplying the Mohawk Ave School, of course, the parents for allowing their children to be there, and the recruits, and also, you know, our officers who put a lot of time and effort into the planning execution of this event.
Yeah, Chief, I'd like to personally thank you. My son had a great time, so thank you and the officers.
You're welcome, and I appreciate council members showing up for the graduation. I know it meant a lot to our officers and the recruits, so appreciate that. I have spoke about in the past about a summer series. So this past weekend, the Sparta Police Department wrapped up its first ever summer series with a barbecue. We did it behind the police station. And this was throughout July and August. Children from the community came and interacted with our officers, and they taught different sports, even archery, cheerleading, a bunch of different things. And this gave the children an opportunity to talk to our officers, engage them in a positive manner, and learn a little bit about what we do. And also, we have those conversations about making good decisions. This was headed by Officer Elise Brown with the assistance of many officers throughout the department. I'd like to thank everyone that was involved. This past week was the last week of service for Lieutenant Adam Carberry. Lieutenant Carberry is retiring after his 20 years with Township of Sparta, and his 6 years of service with the United States Army. It was really a pleasure working with Adam. We came up together through the ranks, and sad to see him go, but I wish him well and his family well on his next journey. And I know he'll do well whatever he's going to do next. And just a reminder of the celebration of our departmental promotions this Friday, August 30th. And on behalf of the department, I would like to invite the council, as I know we've sent some things out. It will be 5 o'clock at the Sparta High School auditorium. And as always, we appreciate the council's support and the township managers' respect and support. And of course, from our citizens and our public, it means a lot to us. And we're glad to see our department holding steady and doing well. So I'm happy for these officers. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Again, I want to reiterate what Manager Zepp said about whatever they're doing at the fire department, keep it up. I don't know if they're, it's the food or what's going on, but whatever they're doing recruiting wise is outstanding. And I want to thank, is it Mr. Shepard? Shepard, for committing his time, his effort to join a fantastic fire department. And also, Chief, I join you, and I really appreciate the effort and outreach that you make to the community. It doesn't go unnoticed. I hear over and over again how outstanding our police force is, how they have such interaction, and the fact that you're doing it with our children starting early is tremendous, and I just want to commend you for that. And I will say, I am sad to see Officer Carberry go. He's obviously an outstanding officer, but also just a fantastic person. And he was, an asset to the force, and I agree with you. Whatever he chooses to do, he'll be an asset to that. But if I don't see him personally, I hope you'll pass along all the council's thanking of his time and effort. Is 20 years, was he here?
A little over 20 years.
Wow,
And
okay.
then, he had spent a lot of time in the U.S. Army.
Okay.
Served for a long time. But,
Okay.
pass that on and thank you.
Yeah, I hope I'll be able to, I'll obviously see him around town, but I will. If I can't thank him personally, I know that we all commend that his work has just been outstanding, and we're in great service to him, so thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to echo those sentiments as well, both for your efforts. I think every year I love to see what's going to be the next thing. And since you've been in this position, you've added multiple things. The reporting that's gone out, which I think is incredibly, it's very informative and it's great to show the community. A lot of times when you say it's great job, when you see those statistics, you really understand. But in addition to that, to see all these different things that you're doing, like and these new programs as well. And people don't understand these programs are run through the volunteer efforts, in many cases, of the officers themselves that are giving up their free time to come and participate and support these events. And I think that's really, really important as well. So also very sad to see Adam leaving, and just want to do a shout out to Christy Ray for her qualified purchasing assistant. That these exams are brutal. I know Dawn worked very hard as well to get her CFO exam. These exams are grueling. They take a tremendous amount of our employees' time. And I think it's very important for us to acknowledge when this happens. So thank you for bringing it forward. Please convey to Christy.
Hopefully
that
she's
we-
watching.
That we all say, congratulations, Christy. And also, obviously, we have now have two great success stories coming out of finance, which is wonderful. And we always like to see the employees wanting to take the next step because it is a lot of their time invested in these grueling exams. So it really is great to see them being involved and taking it to the next level. So congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
All right, may I have a motion to accept the manager's report?
I'll make a motion to accept the manager's report.
May I have a second?
I will second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the manager's report is approved. We are now at the first open public comment period. This is limited to items that are not on the agenda. So if you see something you want to talk about that's on the agenda, now's not the time. So again, it's a public comment period for items that are not on the agenda, and we ask that you approach the microphone, state your name and address, and please adhere to the 5-minute limit. Okay, seeing no one for the open public comment period, we'll move on to the expenditures. Deputy Mayor, would you please read the expenditures for August 13th, 2024?
Yep, I make a motion to approve the expenditures for August 13th, 2024. Total of $3,083,822.68.
May I have a second?
I will second it.
All those in favor of approving the expenditures for August 13th, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The expenditures of August 13th, 2024 have been approved. Deputy Mayor, would you please read the expenditures for August 27th, 2024?
I make a motion, we approve the expenditures for August 27th, 2024, for the total of $14,864,558.96.
And may I have a second, please?
I will second it.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The expenditures for August 27th, 2024 have been approved. We are now up, we do have one ordinance for introduction tonight. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title of Ordinance 2413?
An ordinance of the Township of Sparta adopting Chapter 8 of the Township Code, filming.
Okay, may I have a motion to introduce Ordinance 2413?
I'll make a motion that we introduce ordinance 2413.
May I have a second?
I will second it.
Okay, and before we do roll call, I'll take it back to the dais if anyone has any comments over it. I will say that this is an ordinance, I think we've been speaking about the Sparta Film Readiness Program probably close to 4 months, 5 months. Meaning this ordinance is part of the requirements that the New Jersey Film Commission requires in order to have, to get the designation for film. It is based upon the commission's own kind of template of an ordinance. It's also been vetted by both our attorneys and also members of our Film Ready Committee, many of which who have experiences with these type of ordinances. And so they've also looked at it. And so I want to thank Tom's office, Roxanne, and others who have contributed mightily to getting this ordinance introduced. And so with that, is there anyone else before we go to roll call that wants to be heard on ordinance 13, sorry. Okay. Matt,
I just have a question.
sure.
Separate maybe than the ordinance, but I brought this up as a concern last time. I just want to make sure that, if I understand this correctly, it's coming into the clerk's office and the manager's office. That's how it's outlined in the ordinance. So I just want to make sure that, again, we have an electronic process in place. It could be something as simple as a Microsoft form or something, so that these crews can come in, put in the application, they can come in, the workflow can be automated, then they go where they're going, so that it's not paper and pen or everybody's scrambling. So if this ordinance, upon its introduction, if it is adopted in 2 weeks at our next meeting, I just want to make sure that you guys are prepared in the back end to be able to handle requests that come in, or what's going on in that respect?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, and I think that we should probably work with Mr. Dempsey about how we can have a separate, either it's a tab or something on the website that they can click on and apply electronically, as opposed to, hey, can you send us a paper copy of the permit? And
Right.
then, I think that's a very cogent point, and I think that one that will streamline this. So thank you for raising that. And so as we have, I guess, a few weeks until this would have a hearing on it, I hope we can start investigating the ability to get this, a permit in place electronically. So thank you.
Because the other thing is the permit, that whatever that electronic process is, should be able to upload documents like insurance. So there's a whole list of things that are included here. So just making sure that everything could just be in one big bundle electronically is really going to streamline the effort, I think.
Okay. Thank you. And I think also I'll reach out to some of the other towns who have gone through this permitting process and talk to them about how they've done it and how they've made it easy. And I can even talk to some of members who are, who've been production assistants and managed production, saying, hey, tell me a town where it's really easy to apply online and it's a pretty streamlined process, and we'll try to replicate that here in Sparta. So thank you. I think we're ready for a roll call vote.
Councilman Hertzberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. So ordinance 2413 has been introduced, and in 2 weeks, there will be a hearing on that. Next up, we have an actual hearing of an ordinance. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title of ordinance 2412?
Bond ordinance providing for the construction of a playground in and by the Township of Sparta in the County of Sussex, New Jersey, appropriating $700,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $500,000 bonds or notes on the township for financing such appropriation.
Okay, we're now open to public comment just on the ordinance 2412. So if there's any member of the public that wants to be heard on ordinance 2412, please approach the microphone, state your name and address, and please also adhere to the 5-minute public comment period. All right, seeing no one wanting to approach, I will take it back to council for discussion and comments, starting with my left. Is there anyone, Councilman?
Actually, Mayor,
Sure.
I have Parks and Recreation Director Jean Montemarano here. She's got some illustrations, and she can give us the status update of where we stand right now with that project.
I think that would be fantastic. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think,
Yeah,
yeah.
please use the mic.
Okay, so we just got information from the state back, and I'll let Corey, when I'm done, he can tell you where we are with that. So we can't move ahead with it until we do all of the steps at the DEP that the state needs us to do. That being said, we can't move ahead, but there are certain things we can do. We've come up with some design, these are the same design, just different views of it, of the park, of what we're going to put in. We've got lots of climbing activities, we've got sensory activities, the whole port in place, that's what makes it accessible. So that's what we are required to for the grant. We're doing some extra swings. We have swings where parents can sit with the kids. We have swings that are just handicapped for wheelchairs. So we have a lot of different components in this playground that will be good for kids of all ages, from 2 all the way up to 12, which is what playgrounds are in different areas. There's even like a sensory area for kids who want to be part of the playground but aren't able to really be with the other kids, and there's areas for that. So I'm pretty excited about this. I'll let Corey tell you where we are, and he can give you a timeline on the project.
Thank you. And if the members of the public want to take a look at that, maybe online, or how would they find a copy of that, just to get a kind of idea of what these look like?
I can probably scan it and picture this. It doesn't do it justice until you see it bigger, but you can always come to my office. I'll be happy to show you.
Okay.
Well, we
Thank
can probably
you.
put that as a post, right, on our website somewhere as like a news item.
We can.
Yeah, thanks.
You get that information from the playground provider. The project, we received a grant for an amount of $517,165 toward this project. We got a letter dated August 2nd, which gives us 60 days to prepare a preliminary assessment report. Basically, the assessment report just provides historical information to show that we're not putting this over any kind of toxic, areas on the property. So we have to do some historic research of the property, which is some historic mapping, just to show what it was for, we don't anticipate any problems, but we have to go through that process. Once we do that within 60 days, we submit it to the state for a review, they approve it, then we can appropriate the funds. So that's why we're not running into, getting a project award. We are using a state contractor, so we don't have to go out for, public contract law and public bidding, but we still we can't do that until we get through the assessment part. So we anticipate we'll get through the assessment in October-ish, and then November, December, we can make an award, and then go to construction in the spring. So, okay.
Can I ask, and you might not have this information, for a Sparta resident right now, where's the nearest such park? In New Jersey?
Well, there's no other towns in the county that I'm aware of that has one right now.
Excellent.
Byram Township and Sparta are the only two in the county that received this grant, though.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And do you, at this point, are you at the, any of the engineering stage, or do you anticipate any kind of, structurally construction, this is going to be difficult, or, I mean, we already have a park there. I mean, it doesn't seem like, to me, a layman, doesn't seem like it would be that difficult, but you never know.
You have to demo everything that's there, which will likely use some of our forces to do that part of it. But we have some access issues for ADA ramp, getting from the parking areas to getting up to the playground. So we have some work to do there, but it's not terrible.
Okay.
It's not terrible.
Because it's flat from the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's the perfect site.
Yeah.
Okay.
And most of the biggest part of this whole process is the material that's being placed down. It's got to be soft enough in case somebody falls, but also has to be ADA compliant. So not just the children can get there, but individual that is a parent, grandparent, or whatnot that needs to have access. So that's it's got some stringent criteria we have to comply with.
What's the expected timeline, just conservatively, for completion, do you think?
Well, we'll have it ready so that we can get it delivered as soon as possible after the new year, pretty likely. But if it's a mild winter, maybe they can do it a little bit earlier. If not, it'll wait till spring. But
So by the summer, you would think, or?
Yeah, we've talked with
I would think.
DPW, and it's, like you said, depending on the winter, actually, if it's not so mild, it's even better, because then we can get the big machines in there to pull all the stuff out.
for the demo.
We'll do that if we can get all the stuff ordered before the new year. If we can get it all ordered, they will hold the equipment, the playground company will hold the equipment until we're ready. So once it's there, we know the equipment takes 4 weeks, we get it done, so we're holding.
One issue we didn't want to go demo the playground today. Yeah, then you have no playground.
Start of the
after
summer,
month, yeah.
probably not a
Trying to
great
make
idea.
sure that we have the equipment ordered, and then we know basically when it's coming in, and then we can do the demo while it's, the grass is, everything's firm enough to get our equipment in, and then you do the construction once we're good to do.
So the other question is, and caveat, I have not been there in a while to look at the condition of the existing equipment. Is there any opportunity during the demo to take it and either use it elsewhere in our town or to donate it to another park that is not on the same journey to get where we are right now, but maybe to, is it really old?
Yeah, so all the playground regulations have changed so much.
Okay. Okay.
Can any of it be sold at auction?
Unless you donate it.
Might cost more money to do that than you'd recover.
Maybe. Okay.
I mean, there are certain parts, like with swings, that kind of stuff, if we have just replaced some of the bottom parts of the swings and stuff, if they're still usable, we can probably reuse those. But, I don't want to sell something that's probably not up to code, even if we're selling it.
That's something, okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Most of the time, the liability of trying to give it away or sell it, it's that you'll get money for salvage, but
Right.
Yeah. Risky otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, may I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2412?
Make a motion to adopt
Oh, sorry.
2412.
I was going to say so moved.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had extra questions. I apologize. May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
All right, Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Councilman Hertzberg,
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn,
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti.
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. Next up is the second public comment period, and this one is limited to the resolutions, which you'll see identified in number 9. So again, please confine your comments to the resolutions that are identified in the agenda. Please state your name and address, and please adhere to the 5-minute limit. So is there any member of the public that wishes to be heard on the resolutions?
Hi, Kimberly Knoll, 9 South Haywards Road. I'm here to talk about Resolution 9-8 about the turf replacement. I think we have, over the last couple of years, become more and more aware of PFAS, or the forever chemicals that are starting to be all around us, and we even have some that have been identified in our higher levels in our wells. Turf fields and AstroTurf, or plastic fields, they are actually one of the places that PFAS are getting into our environment. The manufacturers don't disclose that. I know that, like, if you look at their websites, they try to say that they don't have PFAS in them. But more recently, they've started to sell non-PFAS-free AstroTurf. So generally speaking, I don't know that we want to add additional AstroTurf fields or replace the ones that we have with additional AstroTurf. Particularly, I'm not sure exactly where the wells are that have higher levels of PFAS right now, but if it's right in the area where we're replacing this field, I just don't know if that's a good idea. I'd imagine that the tackling of the PFAS in the well has to be twofold, not just remediating the water that is there, but not adding more PFAS to the environment is probably also a good idea. So looking at where the sources of that in our environment would be probably very helpful. I know that there's also cost, right? We're all taxpayers. I pay taxes here too. We don't want to see things going in that cost a lot of money. If you look at the costs, sometimes astrofields can be said to be cheaper. They do require maintenance. I know I used to think that they didn't even require maintenance, but they do, and special equipment to maintain. And they only really last 10 years. They don't last forever. When you add in the remediation to our wells for any water that might be in the environment, and you add in health concerns for children, now you're looking at something that's quite expensive to have in your environment. It's not just the immediate cost of maintaining that field. So I would recommend grass, that we convert it to grass, and for the health of our children, all the community, and our water supplies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jeremy Laverty, 317 Stanhope Road. I'm also here to talk about resurfacing of Ungerman from a different point of view. So I've been on our youth softball board for 7 years. I'm also a phys ed teacher here in town at Alpine Elementary. And the field definitely needs to be repaired. It's not in great shape. It's 20 years old, I think, at least. It's definitely on borrowed time. And I'd be worried if we don't do something, like how much worse is it going to get? And is there going to be, a potential injury that way with like a player? Also having a turf field, I feel like is also a big advantage for like our town or community. For our organization, I mean, obviously it's easier. We don't have to cancel as many practices or games. We had the past fall season, really bad rain. And in the fall, we play on the weekends. And a lot of people couldn't get our games in. Our teams all got all their games in. Either being able to play on it because the rain didn't affect it, or making them up like immediately right after. We even had 2 towns reach out to us to see if they could play a game on our field, on Ungerman, because we have turf and they don't. So all of our girls got their full experience of all their games, practices, everything. And a lot of other towns, those girls did not, unfortunately. Also in the spring, we host tournaments here. And this past one was great, but 2 years ago, bad rain on Saturday, and we had to move fields. And fields you think would hold up did not. Our high school field, actually, we had to move games off of our high school field, but we had Ungerman. And luckily, because of that, we were able to get a lot of games in, still able to run our tournament, not have to send people home for that. And that's a big deal for our organization. That's a big money maker for us, is our tournaments that we put our work in. So being able to still provide that tournament and not having to refund people because all the games got canceled was big for us. We also go and play other towns that have turf or tournaments. My daughter's team actually in a couple weeks going to our first tournament, and they're all turf fields. So for our teams, I know it's an advantage because we play on it. We have one, right? We're able to practice on it, play on it. So when we go there, we don't have that. We see it every time we go. Teams like trying to figure out, oh, because the ball does bounce different, it does roll different. So it definitely helps our players that we have a field, just one where we're able to, play, practice, and be used to it. So it's definitely, again, an advantage for our organization when we have a turf field here and not only all grass. I also feel like learning how to play on different surfaces is kind of important also. I mean, we've had girls that go on and play, obviously, high school, college, and they're going to play on some of these surfaces too. And it's kind of nice that they're able to learn how to do that at a young age, right, and not have to do it when they're older. But I also want to mention it's not just an advantage for our organization. We share that field with baseball in March. They get to practice on it just like us before the spring season because they only have grass fields. So we share it with them. And I know they definitely like that. Also, the last couple of years, the Challenger League has been played at Ungerman. They used to play at Station Park. And I can't obviously speak for them, but I know they've mentioned to our president how much better it is for them to be on Ungerman. And like the turf is so much better for some of their players than when they were over at Station Park. Obviously, like I said, I'm a phys ed teacher. I would love some kind of turf somewhere. Like, I know it's not realistic for a school, but there's so many times at Alpine I go out and that field in the back does not drain. It's a swamp and I can't do things. And at Alpine, obviously, the little kids, I'm like the highlight of their day. They love it. And sometimes they're like, oh, I can't go out. We got to stay in the gym. But it's not even a gym. It's all purpose room, lunch, all kinds of other things. That's another issue. But so unfortunately, I can't go out all the time there. So it would be great to have a field like that I'd be able to use. I know I can't use Ungerman for Alpine, but I'm just saying if I had something at Alpine, it's great. So it is kind of an advantage for some of those things. Ungerman's our center of softball in town. Like I said, we host 2 tournaments. We had 75 teams between the 2 tournaments last spring come here. They all see Ungerman. That's where we run everything out of the press box there, so they all see it. A lot of them get to play on it. Our town runs the spring travel league. All the championship games played on Ungerman, right? And the reason why we can do that is, again, we have turf. It doesn't affect the weather. Scheduling is so much easier. Our rec side, all the all-star games are played on Ungerman. And that's because the other towns all want to play on Ungerman. The girls love it. I mean, like I said, I'm at Alpine. When our younger kids get to play on it, they come and run and tell me when I'm at Alpine, they're so excited. I got to play there. It's so cool. They feel like, big leaguers. Like, it's just different than when they're on their, grass field. So they really enjoy it. And like I mentioned, I've been here a while, 7 years on our board, and something does have to get done with Ungerman, though. We've heard different things over those years.
I thank you. I don't mean to cut you off, but you've given a great presentation. I just have to adhere to it so other members of the public have their opportunity too, but thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the public comment period, just on the resolutions? Okay. So I think there are some resolutions that we can handle kind of en masse. And so unless someone else disagrees, I think that we could have may I have a motion to approve resolutions 9-1 through 9-7?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
9-7.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolutions 9-1 through 9-7.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are now up to Resolution 9-8. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-8?
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, before we go to vote, I know that there are some questions that my fellow council members have about 9-8, and I think also we have our, Gene Montemuro and Corey Stoner here to address some of the questions that we have, in addition to those raised by Ms. Noel about PFAS. So maybe if y'all want to come forward, it may be helpful before we go to vote. I think there's some questions. So I think I think they can be broken up into two kind of components. There's one, the substantive issue of, AstroTurf versus grass and the, PFAS concerns, other concerns, and then there's an issue related to this particular vendor. So I think first we should probably address the substantive issues that some of my fellow council members have about turf in general. So I think Dan has done a lot of work on this starting years ago. So if it's all right, I'll let him begin if he has any questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I do like to offer a few comments. First, I'd also like to reiterate what was said before, that this field is in bad shape and does need to be replaced. However, I am very much against the use of plastic grass fields anywhere in our town. There's a number of reasons for that. I'll lay them out here. First of all, these are very dangerous playing surfaces. I think I'm the only one here voting today that has actually played on a plastic grass field. They're skinned legs, your cleats often get stuck in the plastic, and the risk of concussions is much higher on a plastic grass field than it is on a natural grass field. The surfaces of a plastic grass field can be wickedly higher than a regular grass field, between 15 and 30 degrees on a sunny day. When the temperature is 90 degrees outside, playing on a plastic grass field is just brutal. The fields actually are wildly expensive, and taxpayers usually get duped into believing they're not. These fields have a lifespan of about 7 to 9 years. After that, you tear up the field and you reinstall it every time, and that tear up the field will cost tens of thousands, if not over $100,000. And you're going to dump that plastic grass as toxic waste into a landfill where it's going to sit for a few thousand years. Doing that cycle every 7 to 9 years or so, you are in effect renting your field. You've taken a field that you owned as a grass field, and now you've in effect rented it, and that's an ongoing taxpayer burden. So if we were to be true at the cost of the field, you can't really look at a one-time installation. You need to look at the total cost of ownership over 20 or 25 years. Whereas after 7 to 9 years of putting in a plastic grass field, you're tearing it up, dumping it in a landfill and reinstalling it. After 7 to 9 years on a grass field, you're just watering it. You're done. Since we're already maintaining the rest of the fields in Ungerman Field, it's not going to be that much of a lift to just move the mower over there and cut a little bit more grass. These fields, as we said, are toxic. The plastic grass stuff does degrade over time. It does degrade in that the chemicals volatilize in the sunlight. The fill and the grass is crushed under the player's cleats. People breathe that in. There have been Rutgers studies that shows that at mouth level that the particulates are much higher, are very high actually in that regard. Now, to be fair, there have been, to my knowledge, no studies that have proven a direct link between plastic grass fields and the incidence of cancer. There are many studies that have shown that there are indirect correlations. There's a fairly well-known study out of, I believe it was Washington State, it could have been Oregon, one of the Pacific states, that studied 300 different child athletes that had childhood cancers. And what they found was a very large portion of them were goalkeepers, soccer goalkeepers. Being let's say an old SCIL goalkeeper myself back in the day, can tell you that you spend a lot of time on the ground, and the risk of breathing in that stuff over time, sometimes daily practices are a danger. I also need to point out that this field will be installed within a few feet of the Wallkill River. As we mentioned before, these fields are not maintenance-free. The crumb rubber particles that hold the plastic grass in place wear, as I mentioned, and they get compacted over time, and they must be combed periodically. When the surface becomes too hard to play on, which increases the risk of concussion, the rubber must be vacuumed up and replaced. Additionally, the entire surface must be disinfected periodically because animal feces do not decompose in the grass and the soil because there is no grass and soil. So when children scrape their skin on the sliding on plastic grass fields and bleed, there is a risk of infection if the fields are not properly treated. Now, I have had a conversation with a former Recreation Parks and Rec employee, Jerry Yonkers, about the playability of fields, and what Jerry told me very proudly, actually, was that these fields, you can construct and grade a natural grass field in such a way that would provide as good, if not better, drainage than any plastic grass field. So that's it. That's part of the construction process, not inherent in the fact that a plastic grass field can naturally drain better. So again, if we look at the cost of ownership, you need to look at it over 20 years. So a couple of questions I had with regard to what I just mentioned. There is a quote here for the cost of installation of the plastic surface. Did we get a quote to install a natural grass field over that?
No, we
And if we didn't, I would please recommend that.
Typically, we call it synthetic turf field, but the plastic, yeah,
Okay,
if you will.
I
It's
prefer my
synthetic turf field.
terminology, but anyone is
But no,
fine.
we did not do a quote, get a quote for that, to replace the field with a grass field. If you're gonna do such a thing, you would have to remove, not just the surface, you'd have to move the whole drainage system underneath.
Sure.
Replace it. I estimate probably about a $300,000 job.
And you'd have to look at that cost amortized, or the total cost of ownership over 15 to 20 years, because on a synthetic turf field, you're doing it every 7 to 9 years.
This field's 20 years old, but.
And it's
typically-
probably 10 years past its lifespan. I've been there for a long time.
Typically, the fields, you get 10 to 14 years, something in that neighborhood. That's what I've seen. That's what I've seen them replaced.
If you push it, yes. But you also can run into places where Vernon had a very big problem a couple of years ago, where Maple Grange Field, they needed over $2 million for Maple.
Replace those fields.
Right. And for a while, they didn't have the money for those fields. And so that Maple Grange field was in very bad shape for a long time.
They were about 14 years old.
Yep. And 14 years old that played in those fields were terrible shape for a while. And the township just didn't have the money to replace them. In fact, at one point, they were going to implement an athletic tax to be able to try to recoup some of the costs there. Eventually, they did replace them. You're right. Anyway, I think I've made my point, and I'll rest here.
I'd like to
Thank
make some
you.
points on what you said, because I actually don't disagree with most of what you said. I actually agree with most of it. But unfortunately, we're not in a situation where we can just, and some of it just is true, but not fully correct. The drainage. I don't disagree that you can make great drainage on grass fields. They're still not playable in the beginning of a spring when it's been a tough winter. That was part of the reason why the initial push for turf from lacrosse was because they couldn't start their season when all the other towns were starting their season. And although I don't like playing on turf fields, I'd much prefer to play on grass. If you got to the end of football season on Ungerman Field, you were playing in mud. Different kinds of injuries, but injuries nonetheless, because they couldn't hold up to a full season. Now, and Jane, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we were not supposed to be even considering this, because all of this was supposed to be moved over to White Lake. But unfortunately, due to budget constraints, now we can't build the softball complex that was supposed to be built out there. We can't finish it. We can't light it. We can't do some of the things that we were supposed to do. And there are kids and adults alike that need a field to play on. I would much rather not be doing this. Matter of fact, I was very vocal against doing this because I thought there was a better way. But unfortunately, because of the situation that we're in right now, I think we have to do it because they need a field. Now, I don't disagree with Ms. Noel talking about the PFAS. I think that there are some serious dangers to some of these fields. And I think the sooner we can get out of that, and there are fields now that don't have them. There are fields being made because people are paying attention to that. We know that we're going to have to spend a lot of money fixing our water systems because of it. Now, luckily, this particular one isn't over an aquifer. But unfortunately, right now, this is the set of cards we have, and we have to play them. And I think it'd be unfair to the sports, to the girls, to the rest of the programs that use that field to not have an alternative solution for them. So, in my opinion, unfortunately, because I didn't want to have to do this, I wanted to build them nice, beautiful complex with lights out there. That's not happening. So without that solution, I think this is a short-term solution to get us where we should be. And I hate that in government, you end up doing what you have to do instead of what you should do, because money gets wasted in other places, but that's where we are.
May I,
Are
may I?
we
Yeah, please do.
responding to
So
Dan, or
I
are we going
wanna-
down the dais?
We'll go down the dais.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And then you can go.
So
and then-
I want to also reiterate what you were saying as well. And again, I think that we need to be very mindful here. I know, Dan, you said you're the only one that's played on turf, but I can tell you you're not, because I played on turf. I played in
Proud
the
of that,
women's league
sorry.
here in Sparta, softball, for about 20 years. And when that turf field came
So I
in.
apologize, I take that back.
Also, my daughter's played on that field. My son's been playing football since he was 4. He's 21 years old. It was always grass. Exactly what you said about Ungerman. If you had the first game of the season at Ungerman, which is a grass field, and it rained, it didn't recover the whole season. It just didn't recover the whole season. I think the other thing to keep in mind also is I appreciate the list of the organizations that were shared by Mr. Laverty. I think the thing to remember also is it's baseball, it's softball, it's travel softball, it's women's softball, and it's challenger softball. And I just want to spend a minute there, because for those of you that are not familiar with Challenger's program, that is a program for children that have physical handicaps. That is a program for children that face different disabilities of different levels. It is critical for them, and of course, it's easier for them to play on a turf field. These things are critical. I think the important thing also, as being the mom of a million kids, and I was spending my whole life down at all these different fields, grass, turf, you name it, I was there. I think the thing that's really important was said also before, which is the exposure. These kids, it is different playing on turf. I can tell you that. I mean, I might not be an Olympic athlete, but I spent many years playing on it, and I watched my kids transition to it. There are different ways the ball's going to react. There's different ways you have to react if you want to make a quick stop, or you have to go backwards. You do. And I think it's very important, and we are doing a huge disservice to the kids if we don't provide them with both surfaces to learn on. We have all of Station Park. We have softball fields of grass. To Josh's point, unfortunately, we were not able to move the complex. We would have liked to do things differently, but we can't. And really, when we look at the amount of people that use this field and the fact that we do need an option for these teams to go and we didn't even talk about postseason, okay? If we look at the amount of revenue that is generated for local businesses through these tournaments that come in, I could tell you, I've spent a very long time in all these tournaments, and all the businesses benefit from it, having to cancel, reschedule. If you have to take that out of where it is and move it to Station Park, the businesses are not going to get the same return, because when people are all the way over at Station Park, they're not driving all the way back to town to go get their team an ice cream cone. So for all of these reasons, I think we would be doing the kids a tremendous disservice not giving them. I'm not saying every field should be turf, because I also agree. I love grass fields. I think grass field, we could sit here and make arguments all day long, but to me, as a mom of players, as someone who has played on different surfaces, I think we need to prepare them for everything. So I think in this regard, we have one field that is used for soccer, football, lacrosse, that's turf. So those kids have exposure to a different field. And we also have this one that is utilized by all those organizations that were mentioned previously. And I think it's very important that we not take that away from them to give them the best chance to be successful. Also, very important to note is, yes, there is an expense to this. Obviously, there is. There's also an expense to grass. And we could argue what that is. And I think, again, I don't want to get into that right now, because I think Corey and Jean are going to give us some more information about that. What's important to note is that this money, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, this money was in the budget and secured at the end of last year. This is not new money coming out of a new budget or a new line item that's hitting this budget. This is money that was already put away and put aside for this project. We knew when softball came in originally and this field was originally put there, this was going to be what we were facing. And I think, again, Corey, I heard you kind of say, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but if I'm wrong, correct me, that it could be upwards of $300,000 initially to pull that field out. I think also important to note is not only is that a good cost, but let's talk about the cost of right now, that turf field is grandfathered. And if we were to rip it out and then in 10 years decide that was a bad idea, we most likely would not be able to put turf back there, which would leave us with absolutely nothing.
Let me make another point, Chris, because it's going to get used whether we do it or not. So right now, it's been being used in a defunct state.
Yep.
And I can tell you because my wife, who slid into third base and got a staph infection from the turf, that it shouldn't be being played on. But we don't have other solutions for them. And they're going to use it either way. So to make it safe, I think is important.
Yes.
If I can make a comment, when you're talking about the costs and the drainage and things of that nature, it's costly just because you got to remove what's there.
Right.
The drainage is underneath that field today. If doing a new turf field is very difficult because of the drainage systems that you have to install these days to meet up your storm, because they treat it like impervious coverage. So you got to treat it underground storage, something of that nature. Above ground, like a detention basin or underground piping, things of that, it's very costly. If you take it away, you would have that issue. You are correct. When I say
Corey, can I interrupt for a second? And there are reasons for that, right? That's the current best practices now? I mean, there are probably real reasons for doing that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We want to control the runoff, make sure we're not increasing the runoff off the property more than what it is today. The drainage, you could design it so we can handle the drainage in a very, very good manner and make a very nice field of it. One issue you do have with the lights and the numbers of games and items that you are playing on that, you'd have a difficult time doing that on a grass field. It just, you would wear the field out. So there is, I think cost-wise, it might be, cheaper to have the grass field, but I think there's advantages of what the use that you can get out of the fields. When it comes to the PFAS, that's obviously a touchy subject. I think if you read up on it, there's all kinds of information of it. It may be maybe environmental risk, and it may not be. There's not enough, I think even, Dan, you made a comment that there's a lot of studies, but there's, I haven't seen one that says,
There isn't, to my
definite that
knowledge.
this is the reason why it causes children to have cancer. So I understand that. If rather playing grass than turf, I'd probably say yes. But you don't have enough grass fields to be able to handle the population. I live in Frankfurt Township, and we have a fraction of the people, and they're able to take fields out of service. You don't have that option in Sparta to take fields regularly out of service, and that's where advantage comes down to have one or two of these fields. And there was a talk about making new fields. You're not making new fields right now. You're maintaining the two that you have.
Okay. So, first of all, as it's been said, it's clear that the Ungerman turf field needs a replacement. I mean, I took a look at it. Personally, I think for me, the White Lake Field Complex, which was also a significant investment, that's something that I would be proud of, and I would speak of it proudly. I wouldn't criticize it myself. PFAS substances, it's a class of over 12,000 chemicals. And they're used in a diverse range of manufacturing and different types of processes, industrial. They don't degrade. They've been linked to numerous health effects. And according to the EPA, there's no safe level of exposure to certain PFAS. Everything I've heard in the last 10, 15 minutes doesn't override the health of the kids and maybe adults playing there. I don't care about convenience. I don't care about all this. I mean, it doesn't override our duty to protect the health of them and our water supply. The township, as you may know, is evaluating our wells. I think it came up earlier, through a very thorough manner to check if we have PFAS and what the levels are. And as you probably know, we also joined a class action lawsuit a while back to help protect us in case there's any assistance that comes out of those lawsuits against the big defendants, perhaps for mitigation effects or things like that we can use that money for. So we've done that. So there's a synthetic turf council, right? And represents the industry. Last June, the president and CEO, Melanie Taylor, said that the industry needed at least till 2026 to develop viable alternatives for the marketplace without PFAS chemicals. and at least to 2028 to reduce them to even lower and then even 2026. This is the president and CEO of the council that represents the manufacturing of synthetic turf. So to me, that means a lot. They wouldn't be going out there and saying that this is not a risk and they don't need to change if there wasn't something there. There are three ways or three pathways that PFAS you can get exposure from, right? So it's ingestion. So the little particles, things like that, if kids are on the ground, that could actually be ingested. Inhalation, and Dan talked about that a little bit, and then skin contact. And the latter, skin contact, is the one that's most commonly discussed when you talk about health concerns, including by this vendor. There's also the impact of the chemicals going into the ground, the groundwater beneath it, the runoff into the Wallkill River or wherever, especially if we're not redoing the hole underneath to mitigate for that. In 2019, the US EPA report indicated that even that crumb rubber that you always see flying up on TV when you watch sports in the artificial turf can contain many chemical compounds, cadmium, chromium, arsenic. All those aren't PFAS, but they're still dangerous as well. When you think about the evaluation of the harm from PFAS, it's also something you can't think about only during the active use. So say we have it for 8, 9, 12, 15, 20 years, right? You have to think about also what's the impact of it during manufacturing and also disposal. Right now, there's not a great network out there for taking these and recycling them or using them properly. Unfortunately, I think a lot of them wind up in landfills. So I know it's thinking beyond Sparta, but we need to do that. So this is also the end of life, the full life cycle of what this material is going to do. You know, cities and states are taking action. Some examples: Boston has banned all future artificial turf installations. California, Vermont have introduced bills banning PFAS and artificial turf. There's some towns, especially in New England and in Mid-Atlantic, that have put a moratorium for 3 years on artificial turf until they study this more. There's just too many unknowns, and the risk is not worth it. The two medical institutions that I want to quote, one is the Icahn School of Medicine. They've recently raised red flags. They are writing letters, sending out letters to municipalities, weighing whether to invest in turf, discouraging the decision over concerns about exposure risks to kids that they're seeing. Mount Sinai Children's Environmental Health Center. They also highlight the many unknowns that surround most PFAS. And quote, skin contact is not the only way that athletes or kids could be exposed to chemicals in the turf. They could also accidentally ingest the compounds if they touch their mouths after touching the turf. I would say that we need to the greatest degree possible, restrict exposure to these chemicals. And then finally, an example, interestingly, this is by the same vendor that we are considering. In Woodbridge, Connecticut, testing has shown PFAS levels rose in the surface water that were yards away from the Amity High School field after the turf construction was completed. And it's attributed to PFOA and PFOS. And those levels in the water are above the threshold that are now considered safe by the EPA. And this was actually a couple years ago. The numbers, I think, got more stringent now, where they're going to. And the vendor, Field Turf, installed that field and claimed it would be free of total PFAS measured under the EPA's testing standard. So those are my concerns. I have a few more about the vendor, but I just wanted to lay it out there in terms of what we're dealing with here in terms of considering PFAS and thinking about all these other benefits we might get from a turf field. These, to me, outweigh that by a long shot.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, Jean. Are those fields down there, does Parks and Rec use chemicals on those fields? So in other words, fertilizer, lime to paint the, I'm talking about the grass fields. Okay.
Yes.
So they're fertilized.
Yep.
They have lime, which makes all the stripes, and the paint in the end zones and all that kind of stuff as well.
And weed killers.
Correct? Weed killer. And also on a rainy day, bags and bags and bags of, I don't know what it's called. What's it called?
Turfus. Turfus.
Okay.
To dry up. all
That
the
is put all over the grass field to mop up, if you will, and in the infield of like even Memorial down there. So all of that is already put on the ground as well, correct? Okay.
That's bad for the environment too. I agree.
The point is, I think we're not talking about more fields. We're not talking about looking into the future, adding more fields. I know the Rec Advisory Committee, Neil, you sit on that as well. We've talked about the importance of doing this for about a year now. Very important from safety reasons. I agree also, we're not looking at asking for anything new. We're looking to replace what we have for all the reasons that were given. The Rec Advisory Committee was very much supportive of this entire initiative as well, because they realized the importance of that field being available for all the different organizations that are using it as well. And to my knowledge, again, I think, Corey, you said this as well, there's a lot of studies out there, but we really don't have the end. Everybody thinks, we look at things through different lenses. That's how the world works. So I think if you read a study for someone that's pro-turf, it looks one way. If you look at something where people are against it, I just have to think, although I'm not negating, I know kids that have gotten very, very sick playing on grass because of different reasons. And I just have to think to myself, if it was really that bad, even though I appreciate the fact you're saying in some places there's a moratorium, which again, we're not asking for anything new, but I have to think that if it was that bad, there wouldn't be this many of them. And again, we're not looking at, ripping out all of Station Park and saying we want 15 fields in a row. We're just, the ask is to replace what we have now so that we can service what we have now. Nothing new.
Thank you.
May, if I make two quick comments, if I may. One is that I want to apologize earlier for stating that I was the only person with experience playing on a synthetic field. That was an arrogant comment, and I'm sorry. And
Apology
second-
accepted.
Thank you. And so secondly, while I do feel strongly about this issue, I don't want to imply that there's any shame in having a different opinion. There are very valid reasons for supporting this, and that I respect. So that's the only thing I want to state.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, I'm just, so I think my question am I right that we did not consider grass as an alternative? So no analysis went into that, or?
That's not
Okay.
true. But this, I know everybody's thinking this is the first year or two that we've been talking about this. The first quotes I had on replacing this was when I first got here in 2019. It has been in disrepair and needing since then. When I did that one, I did get a quote for replacing, and at that point, replacing the turf was about 160, and it hasn't gone up much at all. But pulling it all out and redoing it was 200 back in 2019. With the increase of everything that has been going on, I don't think Corey's far off by saying it's going to be at least double of what, of taking it out.
And I
Can I-
didn't do a detailed analysis on
Yeah.
exactly what they had proposed at that time, but there's certain things you got to consider with the grass field also, which I'm not sure if that one did. The removal, of the material, constructing, putting new earth, new soil back in, putting topsoil, seeding, seeding the property, but also irrigation. You got new irrigation requirements that comes in a field like that with the use that this field would get. You would have to, the irrigation comes into that as well. So there's a lot of cost to it.
So that was considered, the cost,
My number is,
No.
I'm estimating that if I include that, it'd be somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000.
okay.
If I may, because I'm your employee, I can do whatever you guys need me to do. I don't have an agenda here. But I will tell you, you take that field out, if you don't replace it with the synthetic field so it's usable right away, we're looking about being without a softball field, being down. So you're actually being down 2 fields, remember, because you got the lights so you can play double. I'm being without 2 fields for probably 2 years. Because when you put the new field in, if the White Lake's been going for 2 years, we only opened up the spring because you can't just get on a grass field once you put it in. It takes a long time for it to take and to be able to use it. So we'll be out 2 fields for at least a year and a half to 2 years. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I am your department head. I do have to watch our costs and stuff. It's not just grass growing, Dan, I'm sorry. We're not mowing that field every day. We're not dragging that field every day. I'm down 2 people right now in the department because of attrition and stuff, and I need to get back up to my 8. I'm down at 6, and we really should be operating at 9.
And we don't have those numbers, and it's not just a little bit of grass to mow and then they're done. There's a lot of work and maintenance daily that goes into a grass field. Like I
Which
said,
they're
we can
currently
do
doing
it.
on the field
We-
next door,
We
right?
can figure it out, but it's a lot more than just, I just don't want you to minimize it like it's nothing. There is a lot that goes into keeping the grass fields the way they
And
are.
how long would it take to go from AstroTurf to AstroTurf? You said it.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. So you could get this field done in 6 weeks. It would take up to 2 years to get this as a playable
To
field.
make sure it's playable and it's not gonna get ruined the first time you use it, yeah.
You normally let it sit for 1 year to make sure the grass is, it has a good stand of grass before you start to use it, or you're gonna waste what you had. Even if you sod it, it makes it difficult, and sod just increases the price even
Yeah,
more.
we sodded White Lake and we still had to wait.
Okay.
And you need to look at a total cost of ownership over 15, 20 years, because
No, I
those.
understand what you're saying.
Thanks.
I get it. I'm just saying, we're gonna have to deal with the here and now, whichever your decision is. You need to be prepared for the here and now.
And if Ungerman was closed for 2 years, meaning, hey, we got to wait for the grass to grow, what effect does that put on you and you scheduling of these various clubs and?
Well, there'll be no tournaments. There'll be no softball tournaments. They won't be able to do, we won't have enough field
So
space
taking
for them.
2 fields out mean no tournaments, or not a scaled back tournament?
Well, okay, scale back, but I think the tournaments, you may lose them if you have the tournament time where, like she said, we had 2 years ago, we had tons of rain. We were able to get that tournament in because we were able to schedule most of it around Ungerman. If we don't have that ability, then we would be canceling that tournament and they would be returning all their money. They're in numbers, just like baseball and lacrosse and everything since COVID are going back up. So now we're trying to find fields for their teams. They have more teams than they even had 2 years ago. I've got a women's softball league that went from 5 teams to I have 10 teams 11 teams actually in the spring and another 6 in the fall. So that will have to be scaled back, and they can't play in the fall. Their fall ball season would pretty much be done, except they could only practice on the weekends because come 3 more weeks, you have darkness. So there's no practicing after school. There's no games after school because there's no lights at White Lake, which was part of that project that we were supposed to put in. So for 2 years, can we manage? You might really do harm to the girls softball program at the very least and the women's program, but would it come back? I don't know. I don't know if people would go looking for softball someplace else or baseball. This was the last 2 years when we started doing my sport programs right now, and I'm going to call them mine, are coordinating better than they ever have. Softball, baseball, lacrosse. We're using the turf fields starting early March. And baseball uses Station Park turf. We split it with lacrosse too. Baseball has like 600 kids in it in the spring. We're using Ungerman. They're getting 3 days. Girls softball's getting 3 days. They split the Sunday. They're getting their preseason in. There's probably less injuries because they're actually getting more touches to the ball. They're being able to work out earlier during the season. In the fall, they can continue what they're doing. Those are the pros of the field, of having this
How many less games would you be forced to have as a result of putting this offline for 2 years?
Well, in the spring, because it all depends on the rain. You're asking me how many, we couldn't schedule as many. If you take the grass out, you have no lights now, so you can only do 1 game a night on the fields that you have, on the 4 fields that you have. We are using school fields, so it's not like we're just saying we're only working, we are already using all of the school fields, baseball and softball fields.
Do you have an idea how many games are on Ungerman per year?
Per year, I'd have to figure out per year,
Okay.
but I do know during the week, it's 10. On the weekends, it's probably, there's at least 3 or 4 a day every Saturday and probably another 2 or 3 every Sunday, so that's 5. So maybe 20 games a week from early April through June. And then you've got the fall, which is all Ungerman,
You
except
would
for on the
also lose the
weekends.
ability, to your point, to have night games. So the women's softball program would be greatly affected by that
Yeah.
because you have 8 o'clock games for the moms and everyone who come home and, start
other ones.
playing. They have games at 6 and 8, so that's double there. And also, to your point, Corey, we would not be able to maximize the investment that we made in the lighting down there because, to your point, right now we can have because we're able to have, you can have the girls softball in there in the morning, the travel team comes in at noon, the baseball team comes in at 2, and you can have the women's team there at night. So my point is, you can utilize the lights and you can play all day. You cannot do that on grass. So in addition to not just shutting it, whatever, I think what we're missing, what we need to consider as well is the investment we've already made down there in the form of hundreds of thousands of dollars in those lights. And what's the difference of having those lights down there if you have to shut them off because you can only have 3 games on the field because the grass can't take it?
Even utilizing the grass, you can use the lights, but to the point, you're going to be wearing the grass out. Especially if you have a rainy season, there's going to be a point where the grass is not going to be playable just because the field is going to be in horrible shape just from playing on it with cleats and stuff.
I'm sorry, so these are 3 people in the outfield are going to wear out the cleats?
It's not always the grass. You got the clay, you got the pitcher's mound,
The
you
whole,
got the whole clay.
actually, the infield's
The
more
infield.
of a problem than the grass in the outfield. The infield's
Sure.
definitely more.
And you're going to wear out the clay?
There are roads, it gets, no matter what you do for drainage, you get some kind of washing going on. If they play in the mud, you got footprints, that's just.
And then you're replacing clay every time they try to dig it out to get
every
rid of the
year.
water. But I'm not saying, Dan,
You do.
I know it sounds silly because you have your
No, I
6
see,
people
there's a
inside.
lot of clay next to the baseball field where
You can't just throw clay, you just don't throw clay onto a field and say it's playable. There's a lot that goes into grooming the field.
I'm not,
and
I'm
making
not
sure-
minimizing it, believe me, but
But-
it sounds like a solvable problem is what I'm trying to say.
It's not
I'm trying to weigh that
insurmountable.
against
It's not
cancer.
insurmountable, but
I'm
it is
sorry.
something. You asked me what what is the impact? That's the impact. There is an impact.
I would imagine that, it's been handled and figured out over decades and decades before there was turf, right? Towns figured out how to
Yeah.
take care of the fields, so when they were starting to get a little thin, do some other things to
Their
them.
seasons were much shorter. They
Yeah.
played differently, and I mean, we can shorten seasons. We can change things around. They're just not going to be our kids are not going to be. If you care about that thing, the kids are not going to be as competitive as they move up the ranks. It does affect the competitiveness of it. If that's not a concern, then it's not a concern. But it does, like Chris says, playing on different surfaces does make a difference. I have played on grass. I ran on a cinder track. I would never want to do that again. I would much rather be on a regular, 8-lane track that's nice with the bouncy surfaces and all of that stuff. It's, there are times when those kind of materials are good for you. I mean, but knowing how to run on all different surfaces is helpful.
I think it's a reason why your high schools were all converting their fields to turf fields. And, you got Sparta, the Sparta High School, you got Pope John. Pope John's got multiple fields, just the wear and tear and the competitiveness for their programs.
Speaking of the high school fields, that went out to a referendum twice to replace that, and it was voted down twice until the high school just did it anyway.
And nothing is insurmountable. I mean, let's be honest, we're in.
Yeah, I think for the concern I have is the one that you spoke about, the disruption to the program.
And it would.
And so just so I'm clear is, if we were to take this and try to convert it to grass, we're looking at a 2-year possible window of no one being able to use that. Okay. And so that means teams that would used to play there can't play there. You have to put them somewhere else.
They have to
And
play-
do you have a somewhere else that you can put them?
No, I don't. They would just have to play less. They would have to play less. So instead of getting 2 practices or 3 practices, you might get 1. The younger kids might only get a game in. They'll never have the opportunity to. The practices is when you learn the game, and the game is when you practice what you learn, right? So if you don't have practices to learn the game and the skills, kids want to play games. So you're going to end up throwing them just in a game situation, because no one's joining a softball program or a baseball program, whatever, to just come out and practice and never have a real game. The kids want to play games. So they won't have the opportunity to develop the skills as maybe they do now, because they would not have practice times. We'd probably just schedule some games and you're going to play every Saturday and that's it. Or you're going to play, you'll get 1 game a day, a week. That would be one way to fix the problem. Another way, I don't know. I mean, maybe we could rent fields from another town, but I don't rent my fields out to other towns because I don't have them. We don't have enough. I have Veritas plays in our fields, or the Veritas school, because it's a Sparta school. They play in our fields. I even have Pope John teams coming over to play in our fields during the day. The high school uses our field, like not just that field, but I'm saying our fields. So it would be hard to go to another town and say, I need some softball fields.
How many softball fields do we have?
Will we use the Mohawk? If you count just the town fields?
No, I'm counting all the fields that we
So
use.
with the school. So you've got 2 softball fields up at White Lake. Well, White Lake is softball, baseball. Baseball used that this spring.
Okay, so
because-
call us half
because
fields.
baseball needed.
Yeah.
What was that?
So call them half fields.
Half fields. So you got.
So you got one.
So maybe 1 and 1 at White Lake for a softball field, 1 there. We do use Mohawk strictly for softball. Baseball's been able to go around that. We have one baseball field at Station Park. Field 11.
No, it's softball.
Softball. Softball's Field 11 is the only all softball field. Other than that, we use the middle school field.
Right, so we have the 2
And the
fields.
middle school high field.
And then you
One,
have the
two,
Station Park, there's like
3.
4 fields there, or
Yep.
3 fields? So
Yeah.
there's like, when you add them all up, 7?
No, those are baseball fields. We
Those are
have
just baseball at
two-
Station
two at-
Park,
two
around
at-
the,
2 at Mohawk, 1 at Station Park, 1 at White Lake. And the 2 middle school fields needs a lot of work, which we'd have to do. So 6, maybe 6 fields.
and you can count the Ungerman Field twice because they've got the
Well,
lights.
I'm not even I thought you meant without Ungerman.
So we've got 8 fields total, if you include the 2 Ungerman fields. So we'll be losing 2 of 8, so we'd be losing a quarter of our fields for 2 years. So you'd be losing a quarter of your practices and a quarter of your games. Okay, so you wouldn't go down from 3 games to 1 or 0, you'd lose a quarter of them, right?
Well, yes and no. Travel teams do mostly on Ungerman.
Okay, I think, we've.
Neil, can I just,
Okay, I want to move to the other issue,
I know,
which was,
but
the vendor.
just if I may.
Sure, go for it.
Because there's a couple other things that I really want to say about this topic. We're talking about sports. We're talking about sports, meaning softball, baseball, all these different programs. I think we need to take a step back and look at it outside of sports. These kids being involved for all this time in these organizations, with these organizations, is critical to their mental health. It is critical when we're talking about living healthy lives, staying engaged, being with the team, staying connected to things. It's much bigger than even just the sport itself. Taking it away, telling them they're going to have less, I don't think that is a healthy solution. And as much as we could sit here and argue mental health and well-being, physical health and well-being, and we could go back and forth, but I think they're equally as important. The other thing is, I will speak to also the condition that I have seen. Again, my husband and I collectively raised 5 kids. We've been on every field that you can imagine, the school fields, every field there is. The problem up here, and Corey, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I will share my experience. Because of the landscape up here, a lot of the fields, once you play on them for a while, millions of rocks start coming up. And then you're going down a field, and if you don't stay on top of it, to Jean's point, and keep it maintained, what starts happening is all the fill underneath, which is millions of rocks all over the place, that starts coming to the surface. We saw that at Ungerman. We saw that at even the high school field before they redid that field as well. So in addition to other things, I think it's important to understand the upkeep that is required, because that is also a very dangerous situation if you don't stay on top of it. But I do really want to go back to the importance of, people move here. They come here, they see our facilities, they see our programs, they want to raise their kids here for a reason. They want to get involved with the sports programs for a reason. And I think to sit here and say, we're going to give you less for less, or we're going to take this out of commission, that's going to be financially devastating to the softball programs and anyone else that's using it for these reasons. So I just want to be mindful of the fact that I think we need to be not just looking at the actual playing of the sports, as important as that is for physical health. I think we also need to look at the impact of all of this from a mental health and perspective as well.
Okay, yeah, I don't think anyone disagrees about the importance of these fields and that I think that the issue is, I think we all have safety in mind. I think those are kind of at the genesis of, Councilman Chiarello and Councilman Blumetti's concerns as well, and I know it's your concern too. But I'd like to move, the other issue I wanted to address was not the substantive issue of, the field versus turf, but this vendor in particular. And so what I'd like to understand is how this particular vendor was chosen, because I know on my investigation of this particular vendor, I found not one, but two separate lawsuits against them for misrepresenting the quality of their fields. And then the town later had to sue in order to recoup their money, and they weren't honoring warranties. And so I wanted to find out, what is it what did we do to, kind of do our due diligence with respect to this vendor?
You take that? Yes. Okay. First of all, we looked at two different vendors. Okay, the vendor that we had proposed was Field Turf, which is probably the largest field installer, at least in the country, if not the world. I think, Neil, to your comments about the lawsuit, there was a, major class, I believe, I can't go into detail, I don't know the details of all the lawsuit, but I know they had a major class action lawsuit about, regarding one of their lines of product, Duraspine, field that they had in the early 2000s, mid to late 2000s, I think. That is not this product. They do not utilize that product anymore. This vendor is, we did Field Turf, and then we did got another quote from Shaw Sports, okay? Both of those vendors are on the ESCNJ, which is the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey co-op program. I have done fields with both contractors, or both manufacturers, and I think both of them would do a fine job. The Field Turf is the vendor. They did the original field here 20 years ago. They've also, Gene has had them in many times in here to do some maintenance on that field. Sometimes I don't even know if they charge you, for the field maintenance. So there is a little bit of loyalty there because they're very good to Sparta Township over the years. The fields at Sparta High School are Field Turf. The fields at Pope John are Field Turf, is my understanding. I did use Field Turf on the fields up at Lenape High School. If anybody's been to Lenape, we did 3 fields with them up there. The fields I did with Shaw, I did 3 fields up in Vernon with Shaw. Both vendors are, they did a fine job, and I think you'll get a good product out of either one of them.
And just Field Turf too, also, I mean, I'm part of NJRP, our my colleagues, they all have used them. They did whatever that was back in the early 2000s with that material and that whatever. Everything has been changed. They're not using that anymore. Montclair State just did a multi-million-dollar project, and we redid all of their fields with Field Turf. So I obviously spoke with colleagues and vetted it out that way too. And there has not been those issues that they had back then with them.
Both companies tout that they have you have a warranty. The warranty is by a third-party insurer, so it's to guarantee the fields for, I believe, 8 years is the guarantee over both of the fields. So, with that, knowing that information, knowing both products are very similar, the little differences, they both have their own proprietary, field manufacturing. Just knowing that, Field Turf has been in Sparta for many years, and they were involved with this field as well as the high school. We thought that this would, and technically gave us a better price.
They discounted off the CNJ because Sparta has used them at the high school, and we've used them several times. So as a repeat customer, they were discounting off of the discount.
Have you ever had to make a warranty claim with Next Turf?
With any of these, I haven't. Even when I was in Randolph, we used Field Turf, and we didn't ever.
I haven't. I've had Field Turf a year or two later come back in to make a repair. Normally, it's like their seams. They come back, they have the stripe that comes in, and the seams come apart or something. They come back in, and I've never had any issues with them coming back in to make those repairs. The process, what they do is they come in, if you know the carpet that's down there now, they actually come through and they slice that carpet in about 4-foot rolls, and they roll the rolls up in almost like they roll the rolls up and they shake out the material, they're gonna reuse this infill. So that's one thing, you know, it's a lot of the infill that's on the field, they're gonna reuse it as much as they can. That cuts down on the cost and less of it goes to a landfill. But the carpet itself, that is disposed of, like Dan stated, it does go to a landfill.
On the infill question, I thought that infill is like the old 20-year-old infill with crushed rubber tire, really bad stuff. We're not going to reuse that, are we?
It's mostly, that's the issue with field turf. A lot of it's sand, there's a sand material. So
Right, the field that's on there now, you're not going to reuse that infill.
Some of that, yeah,
Some of it will
because that's not all old. We've been replaced and covered that with all the newer stuff as the years have gone on, so.
And you've replaced the older stuff? You've vacuumed it up or something, or?
No, we didn't
Still
vacuum
there.
it up, no.
it
Okay.
is,
We did mix.
typically that's what
That's the
happens. They
standard
they
practice.
try to reuse the material and then they add material over top of it, as it's required.
And how much more was Shaw than field turf, do you know?
A similar product, I received a number for 187,000, just under 188,000,
And this, in field turf is how much?
175,
Okay.
about 13 grand. cheap.
Yeah, I mean, so, just what I found was that, yeah, it was a nationwide class action involving their product, right? And I understand that's not the product that's going to be used here. But in that case, they had found internal documents. So this wasn't just someone, hey, I think this is a bad company, I'm going to spout off about it. So they had internal documents from Field Turf where they were communicating, they, meaning the employees, were communicating that this product they were not being truthful about how long it would last, the effects that it would have, and they were like, we have to change the way we market this because it's not consistent. And so my concern is they're going to promise us, same as they did with this, I think it was called Duraline, I think it was the product. They're making a bunch of promises here that they may not be able to keep later. So I don't feel comfortable that this is a vendor that I can trust. I don't know what Shaw is. I haven't done is it a huge deal to switch vendors at this point? I just think that, and again, also to point out, this wasn't the first time for Field Turf. Field Turf back in 2010 entered into a consent judgment with the state of California and the Attorney General because they were lied about the presence of lead in the turf. And so one would think, okay, we got in trouble then, we're going to be really good vendors next time. Well, they weren't. Now they have a new product, and it's called Duraline, and that one was subject to misrepresentation. So my concern here is, are we going to run into the same problem with them? And I know, look, we always look at issues about, we don't want to get sued, right? But we also don't want to have to sue, right? We don't want to have to sue to go back to this vendor and say, you know what? This thing is falling apart after 2 years. You promised us it was going to last 9 years. It's not lasting 9 years. Now, I think it's helpful that you've used them before and haven't had issues. And is the type of product we have now, is that what we're going to use for Ungerman? So what we have at Station is what we're going to use at Ungerman?
The newer version.
Okay.
Even the one that you have
At the high school.
it's probably similar to what you have at
Yeah.
the high school. The one at the Station Park is the older technology. This is just an upgrade from that. It's just because of age. Every few years, they have a new line that comes out. This line, though, has been around for a number of years. I believe this one's more related to softball. They try to relate the different type of turfs.
You use a different weave and the whole bit depending on what kind of field you're using, your usage of the
I
field.
think one of the comments was how the ball bounces, things, how, they tried to, at least that's how they market it. They market it, it's a different, line of field for a ball, like a baseball or a softball versus what you're doing on a turf field, for a soccer or lacrosse. You're just, the way your feet, you react and move, it's a little bit different, the blade, but it's a newer version of what's at.
Do you know any township that have used Shaw for their turf, and have they had any issues?
I used Shaw up in Vernon when they replaced the fields that Dan was talking about a couple years ago. We replaced two multi-purpose fields with Shaw.
Okay,
Again, they did a fine project.
okay.
But like again, that field turf, I've had more projects with them too, and they were fine as well.
Okay. And do you know whether they would have the same 6 weeks turnaround time that I guess you understand that field turf would have?
I didn't ask them that, but we can, it
Okay.
is fairly quick as long as they can fit you in the schedule, so.
Okay.
The whole process does not take a lot of time. It's
No.
not how you fit into their schedule. And the advantages we have right now, doing it now, is schools back in service. You know, but technically all summer long, they're working on the schools to get the school fields done before the fall season.
But you have a limited window because it is temperature control, you know, everything you're doing is temperature control with the weave of the grass and stuff. So that's why we picked this time of year, because at this point, it would be quicker and whatever. You can't do it when it's super cold. So if we don't get it done within the next, you know, by November or so at this point, then now you're talking, they can't do it until the spring, and now you're gonna lose all, that whole advantage of having it done early, because you're gonna be out of the field for 6 weeks in the spring.
And how much would there be any additional delay if we were to choose Shaw over field turf? Or
We'd
would,
have to call Shaw. We don't know how long it would be.
okay.
I didn't do more of that due diligence because I was comfortable with field turf.
Mhm.
You know, and I had the pricing, and he was giving me even more reduced off of the other thing. So, you know, I didn't get the timing. They both said it would be like a 6-week project, but field turf kind of knows that this is coming, so they're holding a spot for us. I don't know.
Oh, you don't know where you fit in the Shaw queue?
Correct.
Okay, got you.
Do you have the extra funds to be able to, if you went with Shaw? So in other words, if we went ahead with the resolution,
Well, I'll be dipping into this year's capital, but yeah, I mean, there is funds there.
okay.
We could do it.
You're talking $20,000.
Yeah.
And I think that the thing is also, I think it would be very hard to find a commercial company, very hard, that has no lawsuits. And so while I appreciate the due diligence, I think we could almost look at almost every vendor that's out there for anything. I mean, even the big ones. Look at Fisher Price, look at,
The bigger you are, the more
look at
you're
all of
gonna
them. The bigger you
exposed,
are,
yeah.
the more you're going to have. I think the other thing, and I was asking that before, and again, I didn't have a chance to research it because I just found out about it at 5:30 tonight. But the other thing is, one of my big questions were, well, were they guilty? Well, what did the judge say? Were they guilty? And they settled. Now, not only, when we talk about vetting here, this is vetted through the co-op, correct? Corey, you've used them for multiple projects. Jean, we have them for multiple products. The turf that we got from them that is supposed to last supposedly from the conversation tonight, 7 to 10 years, has been pushed to almost 20 years right now. And although it should have been replaced a couple years back, it's there. We have had no issues with them holding up their end of the bargain with us to date. Corey has also said he has none. I'm curious, what is the what is there a warranty? Is there a warranty?
Yeah, but I don't have it with me, but I believe it's a 1-year warranty.
Okay.
They do a little bit, it's a little staggered, like they only warranty the base pass, like a certain
Okay.
number of years, and everything else is like, 8 years.
Okay.
But the base pass might be 2 to 3
I
years.
think there
It's
were
like
3 years, yeah,
3 years.
because they're used.
But is it consistent, like regardless of, because you're not, the warranty is not on the installation, the warranty is on the product,
Product.
right? Okay. So,
And when you do any project, we'll, we can require them to have a maintenance guarantee for at least 1 year after they install it, so that anything happens that first year, they gotta come back, period, without having that. We can make sure
write that
that's.
in.
Yeah,
Yep.
we can write that into the contract.
so what I'm wondering then is if we can just amend the resolution, the amount of the resolution to say that we approve the expenditure for that amount for the turf replacement, and let you be able to go back and talk to Shaw to be able to see if it's even applicable, if they can, if there's any kind of leeway or whatever, because I don't think any of us want to hold, well, I can't speak for all of us. I don't want to see the project held up anymore. And I know time is of the essence. I mean, last week we started getting some cold weather. Granted, it wasn't wintertime weather, but it's clear that it's changing. And I think none of us want to see the timeline be pushed out or it end up having to be scheduled in the spring when now we got to kick off all the preseason things and all of the spring softball. So I think if we make that adjustment to the price to say $187,000, that we approve moving forward with $187,000, if the consensus is that more people are comfortable with one vendor over the other vendor, I mean, to me, that's a daily operations, to me, that's a day-to-day operations thing, that's not a us thing. But at least we could move forward, we could let you guys do your due diligence again. I think for me, that's a day-to-day operation thing, not a council thing. The council thing is the project, but I think getting into the vendors and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, maybe that we need to defer to the professionals.
I'd like to share a comment about field turf, just for a little more perspective. So recent customers of theirs was in New Hampshire, right? Portsmouth, you're familiar with Portsmouth, New Hampshire. They made the same claims around 30 PFAS, 30 of them, and those levels, once it was installed there, a local advocacy group went in and found organic fluorine in the field, which is an indicator it might contain PFAS. So then the city of Portsmouth, New Hampshire approved and funded its own tests with an expert to go in for specific compounds. And they confirmed that there were indeed PFAS in the turf. So the tests that the city council ordered found those multiple compounds, and they were at multitudes higher than the maximum safe level for those chemicals in drinking water. So there is concern here. There's risks here.
I don't think it's a matter of field turfs, field or shot. They're all the same materials, just so you get that straight, so you understand what you're saying.
Right, I agree.
Right, so it's
Yeah,
not
I think we're on,
about
yeah, I think we're on the same
field.
page with that. I mean, this is an example,
Right.
and especially one that they mentioned in the recent one that's been documented.
We haven't looked into whether that Shaw has the same complaints. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
Yeah.
we would want to investigate that, but I think Councilwoman Quinn's point is probably a good one if, and I think we'd have to move to amend resolution. First, we'd have to make a motion just to amend it, it would be not to exceed, I think, is it 187,000? Is what, okay.
Say 188. Their actual number was 187,751.94.
So
So
188.
188 is probably, okay.
So my recommendation is that we pause this and let you have some time, and Corey, to get quotes, so we know what we're talking about with grass fields. So we have some specifics, put it out to bid or get 3 or 4 quotes and see how long it would take. And then give you some time to work out, is it possible to, what kind of shuffling would you need to do? We're not talking forever, right? We're talking a year or two, whatever it is, to figure out how bad it would be, and let's get to a real number so we know what the disruption would be. I still think above all that and above the convenience of turf, we're still talking about a long-term investment that could be dangerous. That's my view. But I think we should take time so we know what the decision is, not just have you estimate on the spot how many games or how much the field's going to cost.
So all of that takes a lot of time that we don't really have right now if we want to ensure the spring season. The other thing I want to just share with everybody here is we just literally did an open space survey that I just got, so thank you for sending that to me. And I just want to let everyone know that open space survey, which was sent out by the Environmental Commission, by people working with the Environmental Commission about the open space plan, had 334 response, 160 listed the top thing as they need more turf fields. The quality of life survey that we did and presented in 2020, also one of the things for quality of life that the residents all said they wanted more of was more turf fields, not less turf fields. We're not talking about more here, we're talking about status quo. I think that I would like to make a motion to amend the resolution. So I would like to make a motion that we amend the price to to make it easy, $188,000. And to make that amendment to the resolution.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Unfortunately, I just have to interject that one legal point. Unfortunately, we don't have the chief financial officer available to certify that the differential in funds are available.
So could we add funds permitting?
I'm sorry?
Could we add funds permitting?
Well, yes, you could do that. We would have to certainly get a certification from the CFO.
Okay.
Before any any contract award is made, even if you're delegating that.
But then it becomes a
authority to
business
someone else.
function rather than anything else. Then it doesn't have to come before the council again. So the resolution could be amended to say we approve up to $188,000 funds permitting, correct? And then it becomes the manager, the professionals, and the staff and the administration to then go back and, for the replacement of the turf field, then it becomes a business day-to-day thing that you guys go back, do your due diligence, make your selection of the vendor, and move forward with the project. Then we're not jeopardizing anything in the spring. That's critical.
Well, what-
This is our window.
What you would want to do is, you can authorize, delegate that deed to the township manager and authorize the mayor to execute the contract on behalf of the township, after advice and consent from the township manager and whomever else you want to designate advising the mayor.
Okay, so I want to make that motion.
I'll second.
And again, it's a motion to amend Resolution 9
Dash
A
Dash 8.
so that it is not to exceed $188,000 funds permitting.
Yes.
And again,
And you're also deleting from, in that amendment from 9-8, you're deleting the reference to the party to whom this resolution was originally designed for, and that being Field Turf USA.
Right.
So we would just remove that and to be the vendor.
Would it be to Field Turf USA and or Shaw?
Yes, if you wanted to limit it to one or the other.
Yeah, I think that's what we should do.
I agree. And then let it be a business decision. We are in a short window. Let's,
Yeah.
And the and/or would be Shaw Sports Turf,
Shaw Sports Turf.
SHAW Sports Turf.
Okay.
They don't have their address available. There it is, I'm sorry.
First, we have to
also
vote
be-
to amend, correct?
We would also be deleting the term of the contract as it is presently reported in this resolution. That's in the third whereas.
And the second.
In the second.
Well, that should
And the
have been
first,
changed
that was the
already.
first mention of Field Turf USA.
That's what they said, to amend that from Field Turf USA or Shaw Sport Turf.
Oh, you know what?
So it'd be.
So March 21,
You
2024.
need to know what the Shaw term is.
Excuse me?
You need to know what the
I
Shaw
think-
term
And
is.
one,
Contract.
2, 3. Amend.
They don't know what the Shaw thing is because they
know.
haven't reached out to them.
You
yet.
have to add that in.
Oh, and 7, because 7
It's a
also
lot of
mentions
editing.
Field Turf.
I mean, Neil, is this
Right, right.
really that important to you that is this particular issue, right? Above and beyond the replacement of the field and for all the reasons that were given today and spoken here today, and for $13,000 on top of all of this, is it really that important to you that we go with a different vendor and turn
yeah, I
this?
think, I'm glad you asked me because this is a very difficult decision for me because I'm very mindful of the safety concerns that have been raised. But I'm also kind of mindful of who is making those claims and who wants to use this field. The people who use these fields seem to have consented to the risk, right? I mean, we had the physical ed teacher and the coach stand up here and tell us, we want turf. And he's in the kind of best position of understanding what it is the people who use these fields want. I think it was also helpful to hear from Councilman Quinn about the survey of what the people want. The people who say we want fields, say we want turf fields. I'm going to assume that they're well aware of potential health concerns with respect to turf fields. And so my concern is that we would be saying, well, we know better. We don't think you should undergo that risk. We think, you should wait 2 years and let us put a grass field in, and then, we're going to do it for you. Particularly when, it would be, what you said, a significant disruption to our rec. And I think everything in life comes a balance and risk. The fact that we've lived with this turf field for however long, we're not saying let's going to turf every single field in Sparta. And so, with that, I think at least I've been persuaded that I think that we should, I don't think it's worth waiting 2 years to get a grass field. I think the people who use this most have consented to use turf. They want it. They know the risk. They've assumed it. And so we can talk about later whether there's a liability waiver that we can, sign when you sign up for softball, but that's another issue. Now, with respect to the
Neil, can
vendor.
you make a comment on that?
You can in a minute. Next is the vendor. It's, maybe it's just because, I'm a lawyer and I see, this makes me uncomfortable. It does. But it was helpful to hear that, hey, Neil, we've had this vendor for however long and we haven't had an issue with it. So that's a potent argument. It just when you read what they did and it's like I said, these are internal documents, and they did, and it wasn't the first time with these folks. They did it again. Are they going to do it to us? I don't know. Do we have to run that risk? I don't know. I know I hear the softball. I don't want to delay this. Sports was the most important thing in my life. I know how important it is. It made me who I am today, and I don't want to stop and delay that if we don't have to. And I did all kinds of risks with my sport that probably someone said you shouldn't have run on that cinder track. You're breathing in all kinds of stuff. But you know what? We did it. And so I think with that, my view of it is I'd like to just do another vendor. It is important to me, Chris. I worry about, let's just do our due diligence, and, maybe Shaw's just been in trouble just like all the rest. I don't know. But it would make me feel better. But I think on a substantive issue of field versus turf, I think we have the people have spoken. They want this. And so let's give them what they want.
So at the risk of not being able to come out of here tonight with something in place so that they can move forward, because we need to understand now the fall stuff is starting, you know what I mean? We need this window. So is then the directive that we give the manager, right? We approve this, we take the vendors' names out, we say, we approve the spending of X amount of dollars to have this field replaced. Then they can do their due diligence. If Shaw comes back and says, we're really sorry, we're booked, we can't get to you till whenever, then I think they still need the freedom and flexibility of being able to go back without having to come back here, get our permission. Because to my point, I think that becomes then a day-to-day operation of who you use,
So I
what
think-
vendors you
I think we
use.
just got to ask Tom what the best way to do that is.
Yeah, Tom,
Before
how,
we get there, I wanted to add some comments, and I was going to speak next. Can I?
Go
Can I
ahead.
say them?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a bit appalled that we're thinking the public and kids have consented to this. I mean, come on, I think we all know in our hearts and our brains, people aren't consenting to this when you use a turf field, right? I mean, it's impossible. I don't think they understand the risk or the future risk. I think it's our responsibility and our duty to protect them and do that. Same way we do with drinking water and bridges. We're not asking these people to be experts and consent because they want to go play a sport. I understand there's a lot of disruption that would happen. Towns deal with this and they work it out. Some way they make it work for the long term. I don't think that we're expecting, this is not a consent, right? We're not, kids aren't consenting to this. There's parents that have sued over this, not here, because of this, right? We all know that there's a risk here and this could be dangerous, right? And yes, it would disrupt things, and that's horrible. And sports are really important, especially the physical and the mental health parts of it, and just the community part of it. I get that. But to assume they're consenting and that's okay, let's check the box and fund this. It
I'm going to tell you right now.
doesn't sit right.
Kids have been, just to be clear, down at Ungerman when the field was a train wreck before the turf. Kids ripped their legs open because sprinkler heads popped out of the ground. And, I saw you guys cracking up back there because you thought it was really funny when we were talking about rocks coming to the surface. But many kids have been taken to the ER because they went sliding in and hit a rock. It's not really that funny if it happens to your kid. Okay, so maybe you want to tone that down a smidge. So here's the deal. You consent when you go out there. Even my daughter just broke her ankle playing softball on Thursday. There's risk when you play sports, whether it's the field, and I mentioned before, there were feces on the field years ago over at Station Park. Kids got very, very, very sick. Are we going to make people sign a waiver that says, if there's goose poop on the field, please don't sue us? I mean, there's some things that are inherent. I also don't think we're judge and jury to make health decisions for everybody. We've voiced our opinions. This information, with the help of social media and everything else, is out there. People feel a certain kind of way about it one way or the other. If parents have concerns, then they should withhold their children playing on those surfaces and have them play in the games on the grass. That's okay. That's fine. But I don't think you could say that this is something that people aren't aware of. And I certainly don't think we are the judge and jury. We are all on the record with our different feelings about this and our different concerns about it. But I don't think it's up to us to make those decisions for parents, for their children, for anything else, honestly.
I disagree, actually.
Okay.
I think it's fine, we can have our own opinions, but I think
We can.
in situations when someone is consenting to breaking an ankle or falling on a sprinkler or things like that, that happens, that's more understood, and that's near term, that's present. These things we're talking about are long-term risks, and it's not just made up, right? So you have the federal government, the state government, lots of entities. It's known, things have been tightening up around PFAS, right? So this is a potential long-term risk. I think we're representing the public. I think we do have a responsibility to think about their safety. It's not judge and jury, it's being protective and making the right decisions for the long term. That's my opinion. We differ on that, I get it.
I respect that, but in the interest of time and discussion, I do have a motion on the floor. And Tom, if you could walk us through how we can make that happen, I'd like to be able to formally make that motion with you giving the caveat and then put it up for a vote.
Well, if I understand the amendment being sought, it's requires multiple changes to the current resolution. The current resolution would be amended that there are 7 whereas clauses. The first whereas would be amended to include with Field Turf USA, Shaw Sport Turf. The second whereas clause would be deleted. The third whereas clause would be deleted. The fourth whereas clause would be edited to read or amended to read, upon the township financial officer certifying that funds are available for this purpose and certifying that funds are available in account numbers in Parks and Recreation capital accounts not to exceed $188,000. Fifth whereas would stay as is. Sixth whereas would stay as is. Seventh whereas would read, whereas the procurement may be awarded under, and cites the statute, using a fair and open process to Field Turf or Shaw Sport Turf. And then the now therefore would be amended to read, be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Sparta that with the advice of the township manager, the township engineer, and the township attorney, the mayor is authorized to execute a contract with either Field Turf or Shaw Sport Turf.
So I'm going to make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, can we have a roll call vote on that?
Yeah, Madam Clerk, can you have a roll call, please?
Councilman Hertzberg.
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello.
No.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti.
No.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. So Resolution 9-8 is as amended. Next up is Resolution,
We haven't
We haven't
passed it,
approved it.
we just amended it.
oh, amended, sorry, you're
So
right.
I move that we adopt Resolution 9-8 as amended.
Second.
We Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Hertzberg.
Yes.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Yes.
Councilman Chiarello.
No.
Deputy Mayor Blumetti.
No.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. So Resolution 9-8 as amended has passed. Next up is Resolution 9-9, which is a resolution approving the submission of a grant application, execution of a grant agreement with the New Jersey Highlands. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-9?
I move that we approve Resolution 9-9.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
May I have all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
And so Resolution 9-9 has passed. Next, we have Resolution 9-10, which is a resolution authorizing the displaying of commemorative flag on township-owned flagpole, September 11th, 9/11 flag. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-10?
I move that we approve Resolution 9-10.
May I have a second?
I will second it.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
All those abstain? We have
Abstain.
so we have 3 yeses or ayes and 2 abstentions. Next up is Resolution 9-11, which is a resolution authorizing the displaying of commemorative flag on township-owned flagpoles, September 18th, U.S. Air Force. May I have a motion to approve Resolution 9-11?
I motion that we approve Resolution 9-11.
May I have a second, please?
I will second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those abstain?
Abstain.
Okay, so we have 3 ayes and 2 abstentions for Resolution 9-11.
Mayor, before we get into council liaison updates, I'd like to see if we could call up Vinny from the New Jersey Film Council. I know he wanted to say a few words. That's you.
Could we do that during the open to the public? Why don't we do that during the open to the public?
Well, because he has to leave, because he lives like an hour and a half
okay.
away, and he
Okay.
came for the thing that was an hour ago.
Appreciate it.
Well,
That was a cool discussion, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, he's cool.
Yeah.
You can't get that
Yeah,
back in
100%.
your life ever.
Exactly.
Yeah, we all like grass. Anyways,
You could always walk in and-
we all like grass, big time, guys, 100%. So anyways, I was invited by Kevin up here. So my name is Vinny Arizzo. I'm a filmmaker based in Monroe Township, New Jersey. I own Syndicate Productions, and I own the only film school in New Jersey known as Syndicate Film School. And we train people by industry professionals. I started working with, we've worked on the Subversion film that Kevin's been creating. We've done it at Josh's restaurant, and, I've been acquainted with Neil. And I just want to kind of basically essentially talk about how amazing the film committee has been working, coming from a professional standpoint, how smooth everything's been coming along. And on top of that, the fact that all these big key leaders have been all coming here now just to make sure that this common interest is fulfilled in regards to making the economy flow with filmmaking, make sure that we have this come out here. So for those who don't know, filmmaking, every single time that there's a film happening in a town in New Jersey, they've actually found that the economy rises by 40%, and there's not many film-ready towns. And for those who don't know what film-ready is, I work very closely with the Film Commission in regards to the education system, with our education system at the film school. Basically, with the NJ Film Ready initiative, it's basically where we take a town, a municipality, and we essentially turn it into a ready committee for filmmakers to come in and basically use that town to shoot. So basically, I just wanted to say you guys have been doing absolutely phenomenal, and our goal at Syndicate is to essentially come up here and be a part of that one day. So we're looking to put up more locations, both production companies and film schools, to basically train people, and we'd love to work with you guys at some point. But I just want to say congratulations for everything that you guys have been doing, and it's absolutely phenomenal, just with very little that I've seen, and I think it's only going to go up from here. So thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinny. And I appreciate all the work that you've done.
I just want to say a little bit on that because you guys have been great. I mean, I've seen you've been there once a week for almost a month and a half now, with 30+ people volunteering their time and their work and their expertise, and it's been really cool to watch. I'm a little disappointed in the efforts of the township because this was a committee that was supposed to support you guys, but the only one supporting you guys seems to be me, out of my own pocket personally, because watching you guys that first day, I didn't think you guys were going to be there for 2 months almost. But I felt like I just had to, I had to help you guys out because it's such a cool project, and it was something that I think does have value in the township. So if we're going to have committees in the town, I think there's got to be a little more support behind it besides just, sending these guys out to do it all on their own. It really hasn't been fair. So I applaud the work that you guys are putting in, all the volunteers you put together. Hopefully, maybe we can get our stuff together and actually support you guys.
So let me ask, are film committees in other towns funded, like in the budget or something? Like, is there? Sorry. So my question.
He heard,
Mike, did you hear my question?
He did. He jumped
So
on.
Okay.
we've essentially been trying to fix that by essentially having the New Jersey Film Ready conventions and stuff like that. So you guys can do that. And if, in fact, it's actually very much recommended because it actually makes things a lot smoother in regards to actually building a system that filmmakers can go off of, right? So I think you were talking about the automating system and stuff like that. That's good to start off with just for the paperwork end, but really there still needs to be a liaison for your town to essentially, because every single film is so different, you know? It's not just a cookie cutter thing. Every single shot, every single film is so very different, but I do think that there needs to be budgets in place. And so far, just based on I don't know if you guys know this, but there's only 12 film-ready towns ready in New Jersey, and I think you guys are you guys one of them, right?
Not yet.
Not yet? There's only 12. So you guys are going to be one of the very first people to do that in history. And what happens is by making sure that you have all of this stuff implemented right now, it's going to send you guys way ahead. And plus, you know, Kevin's very connected and, you know, we're all very connected. And the fact that you guys are investing into this now, and if you invest into this early, it's only going to grow and blossom from here. So I do recommend you guys possibly look into something to where there is some type of implementation, some type of training, some type of funds that could, you know, help build the town better in regards to the permitting system and stuff like that. So very much recommended. But no, essentially there's nothing like this yet. So I heavily recommend it. And it doesn't need to be too crazy, but still the most that you can get, the better. So any other questions before I jump back down and spring back up?
Sorry.
No, you're
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And so we are at the council liaison updates, and so why don't I go to my left with Councilwoman Quinn? Do you have any liaison updates?
So we are having, let's see, hold on one second. Let me get back to my page here. Okay, so the Rec Advisory Committee, we had submitted our list of projects. We were asked, and they were ranked. We had been asked to go back and re-rank them. We waited because then the survey came out, so we wanted to make sure that before we did our own thing, let's see what everyone in the town has. So we're going to be providing another report, another ranking or report. Still ranking very, very high on our list is pickleball courts. We're very excited about our pickleball courts. And, you know, I think it's, again, this is a sign of the times. Things change, right? And now pickleball is very hot. And again, it's about getting people outside. It's about getting people connected. It's about bringing people in the community together. And pickleball seems to be a great way to make this happen. So that is one of the things that is very high on our list. And we're super excited about that. We will send back in a revised, I don't know if there's going to be, we met and discussed it. We really did not have any revisions to it, Jean, at our meeting that we had. We just wanted to hold until such time as we got the survey results back. We'll get the survey results back to the advisory team, Neil, as you know as well. And then if anyone wants to make any changes, we can always, I guess, Neil, send it back. But I mean, I don't think there's going to be any, but we could always do that. So that's what's going on there. We also, Municipal Alliance is in the middle of the screenagers review, so very excited about that. We put together a form and a survey for all of the schools. We're waiting for them to all give us their feedback before we pick a path forward. The seniors have no meetings till September, but I do want to clarify something for anyone that's interested in the Senior Olympics. If you have not been, it's amazing. But sometimes people wonder, hey, what does it mean? What age can I participate? And the age is 60. So it's not 65, it's 60. So if anyone is interested, and also, like I said, I try to go to all the ones that I can. It's such an amazing event. It's really great. So
Thank you for reminding me that I'm now eligible to play in the Senior Olympics.
we're waiting for Jean. She's not there, but we're going to have her be the ringer. Oh, you are there? Okay.
5 or 6 was the very first Tri-County Senior Olympics. I was working Randolph at the time, that Sparta had the first one. It was here.
Sparta, so what Jean is saying, just for the for everyone that can't hear her because she's not on microphone, is that the very first Tri-County Senior Olympics was held in 1986? 1986 or 87, and it was held right here in Sparta. So something to really be proud of. Lake Mohawk, we don't have any updates there, Mayor, unless there's something that you have. And I think that's everything I have for now.
Councilman Hertzberg.
Mine was canceled due to vacations, so I didn't have a meeting.
Councilman Blumetti.
Just a summary of some recent planning board activities from last 2 meetings. Planning board approved 3 applications, Beringer on 10 Iron Way, ONV1 Holdings on 1 North Village Boulevard, JVP Ventures on 172 Woodport Road, Pinecone Plaza. Another application, Ramez and Company LLC at 61 Sparta Avenue was started and carried to September 18th. Lakeland Bank was, came through because they needed a variance on some rebranding signs as they're changing brands. And then finally, the Master Plan Subcommittee met on August 12th. And the next Master Plan Subcommittee meeting is the second week of September. The next Planning Board meeting is Wednesday, September 4th. Thank you.
Councilman Chiarello.
I have a couple of updates. First, 3 updates. First, with the Trails Committee, I believe we need to assign a council liaison. We don't have to do that now, but that's still, the Trails Committee is in place. We did name 4 people to the Trails Committee, but we'll need a council liaison. Again, it doesn't have to be done now, but just want to point that out.
Okay.
Culture and Arts Committee, our last show of the year is on August 30th, Friday the 30th, Rachel Z and Osmosis. So it's our last chance to see some free rock in Sparta. Maybe last thing for the Culture and Arts series to participate in that. And then finally, to wrap up, back to the sister city in Greece, we do have a committee that we set up. We will staff that soon, probably get going in October-ish. The annual conference in Sparta, Greece is on September 7th and 8th, so I'm leaving Friday for that conference. I'm very happy and proud that so many people have stepped up, so many organizations have stepped up to offer gifts from us to the people in Greece. We have gifts from the municipality, the police department, the school system, the Historical Society, and also the Sterling Mineral Mine Museum. And I will also point out, I bet you've never noticed, really paid attention to this before, but that flag right there, that's the flag of Sparta. And Roxanne will not pry that from her cold, dead hands for getting that. So we will not send that flag, but we are sending a duplicate of that flag over. So Roxanne put her foot down. We're not sending that one. It is cool and old. It's at least 55 years old, we found out. Yeah, that's all I have for committee reports.
All right, first for me, I attended the August meeting of the library board. The library circulation is up. They're also in the process of expanding the kind of what I call the kind of integrated interlibrary loan system. So you'll have better ability to get books from a whole wider array of participating libraries. Dave Costa has been very involved in that, and it's a new type of software that they're very happy with, and so that is probably coming online soon. They've also had some, movement with some technological assistance, but the staffing is just fine, and so the library has really bounced back from COVID and is doing quite well. Next, with respect to the film committee, the reason why we did that ordinance today is that August 30th is the deadline to submit our application for the film ready designation. And so part of that is to have an ordinance in place so that you can have the structure. And I know there was an allusion to how come the town can't help? Well, part of it is we had no infrastructure in place to even deal with this. And now we do, and I think that was a good issue about possible funding, and we'll look at that. But our application will get in on the 30th, and that's simply, the big thing, the heavy lift was really the ordinance, and then I know that we had to take, various photos of, certain areas, and we're in good shape with that, and we can always add later. If someone says, hey, how come you didn't include, this part of Sparta? Well, we'll be glad to take pictures of it and upload it to the website. And so, but I do want to commend the Sparta Film Ready Committee, because when we started it, it was really focused on just getting this application in. I really didn't have an idea that they were going to take it upon themselves to actually try to come up with an actual TV show, and now they have, is it 11-minute? Is that what? 11-minute trailer that they have, I think, one more shooting day left. And then after that's done and the post-editing is done, that will then be shopped around to various production companies and streaming services, et cetera. And I got, and Josh has been able to see it. I've gotten to be on set, and you would not believe the amount of work that goes into this. And it was a real lesson in cooperation, because there's so many different facets of it. And, as I told them, it's sort of a very kind of great metaphor for how a community actually works, right? Because the community isn't focused on just one person. For a film to go off successfully requires everyone on that to be working on the same goal. And so if the lighting is messed up, then it doesn't matter whether you have the greatest actor in the world. It's not going to come off. So they have to make sure every little component of that it works. And so it's been a real treat to see, and I applaud, Kevin and Vinny and everyone who's been involved, from, the talent that was there to the, I didn't even know they had, what I'll call the script police. Make sure they get the lines right. There's literally a person who sits there and makes sure you don't screw up. Yeah, So it's a real cool process to see, and all the work and effort that it's take. I also want to thank our police force. When I went out at the Station Park shooting, and there was a police officer there, don't remember which officer, but, he was, and they've been tremendously helpful. And again, I also want to thank Councilman Hertzberg. He has been tremendously gracious and great, in helping this. Oh, and yes, and for those who, of a certain generation, Elvin from The Cosby Show was one of the talents that were here. So for a Gen X person, it was very nice to have Jeffrey Owens in town to help film this. So I applaud all of the work. Let's get this application in. The award, probably we won't know about it till November, is my understanding from the Film Commission. And then I also look forward to updates from Kevin and others about this. We hope to have a screening of this trailer probably sometime mid-November, where members of the public can go see what all the fantastic work that they've done. So,
Should have it at Sparta Theater,
well,
our own theater.
yeah, we have Sparta Stage has been a much more receptive audience. I'll put that diplomatically. Joe Garcetti has been very nice about hosting, and so we'll find a venue. My hope is, we'll get so much demand that we have to go to the high school or something. So we'll see. I also want the past month I've been able to attend an Eagle Scout Award. And that was a tremendous experience that was held at our VFW. Just learning what it takes to actually get one of those awards is incredible. And they do a lot of work for us. And I think and also I want to props to Pete Litchfield and the VFW for hosting. And having Pete there was actually a great example that I used for them, which was that, Boy Scouts are committed to service. But it doesn't stop after you get your Eagle Scout. In the same way that Mr. Litchfield, when he got out of Vietnam, didn't say, well, I did my duty to the country, I'm done, I'm never going to help out again. He dedicated the rest of his life to helping out his community, and I thought that was a very kind of important lesson to convey on the kids. Next was also the Junior Police Academy. And really, the time and effort that y'all take out of your day job, so to speak, is incredible. It's a lot of work for those kids, and I really thank you. And it was a tremendous lesson for them about being of service to their community, as y'all are every day. So thank you for that. And with that, that is all the updates that I have. Are there any unfinished or new business that anyone needs to address?
I have some.
Sure.
So first is just an announcement. It is football season and the Spartans are opening up on Thursday night. So I just want to let everyone know Sparta High School football has their first game Saturday night.
Thursday night.
Thursday night. I'm sorry. Thursday night. Thursday night football. So the Spartans are playing on Thursday night. Go Spartans. Also, we have been talking about a report that was done around Station Park and the field over there. And I think the next step of that is to discuss if we're gonna, or where it's gonna be so that people can have access to it. So I think we just need to provide the public with the information as far as where they can find that information. I know that I had talked to you as well, and to just say, we're gonna set that meeting up so we can get specific questions answered. But I think the path forward, I think you had said, or someone had said it was gonna go on the website, but,
It can,
okay.
council direct.
So do we agree that that report's gonna be on the website?
I'm sorry, I missed that report is which one?
The,
Palmer.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought you were saying. I just
yeah,
didn't catch
that
it.
one?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we just need to tell people where they could find it.
I think, yes. I mean,
So
do
the
we need to,
website?
I don't think we need to do a motion or anything to make that happen, but, I
No.
think that would be
So we'll
fine.
post it on the website.
I'll
and
get it
then-
posted.
Okay.
I'll tell you where it
Great.
is.
Perfect, thank you. And then also, I'm going to be putting in a request. I had such a great conversation with Scott Greco, for those of you that may not know him. He and his wife started the Challenger program. They're just amazing people. The program is absolutely unbelievable. If you have never seen it, it is unbelievable. And so I'm going to be putting in a request. I would like to formally acknowledge Mr. Greco and his wife and the coaches and the Challenger program. So you're going to be getting that email from me tomorrow. Jim, I'll send it to you. Neil, I'll copy you on it. But I would really like to recognize them formally. And they don't want the accolades. I know it took a little while to coerce them, but they did finally agree to come. So I will be putting in that request formally. You'll have it tomorrow.
Great.
Okay? And that's it from me.
I only have one thing, and it's, going to be my every other month request that we get some kind of movement on these sober living homes that are operating in violation of our zoning in these neighborhoods. I again got calls from some of the people that live in one of the neighborhoods asking where it's at, because it's been 2, maybe 3 years since they
It's during
first came
COVID,
here and
yeah.
complained. And, they feel very neglected, and I've kept telling them that, there is movement on it, that we're working on it. But in good conscience, I can't tell them that anymore. So we need to do something. And I know, Jim, you just stepped into this, and this was well before you. But, these people have been bringing these complaints for years now. And there are tons of case law. I know some of the things that New Jersey has done might be a little different, but there's tons of case law showing that they're not allowed to violate the zoning of our town. And we've talked about this a lot, that, I understand this is a need, and there should be things like this, and they should be in mixed use. They should not be in residential-only neighborhoods.
We are in process of addressing them. There's a new classification out by the state, and I'll be working with Tom's office on getting each of the locations looked at for compliance and, whether they're appropriate or not.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Yeah, on new business for me, yeah, I think I'd sent to probably Jim or someone. I'm also getting the complaints about the sober homes, and some towns have been able to do some type of regulation. There is that new classification under our zoning laws that you could, use it as a permitted use, and that would maybe carve out some of the bad sober homes, so to speak. But I know we're looking at that, and hopefully we can, because I know there's some in town that people have complained about. And so, again, I think we do need to, everyone wants to help those in recovery, but I think we also need to balance that with the needs of the residential community that we have. The other item,
Neil, I'm sorry, I don't
sure.
want to interrupt you, but I do want to make one thing clear, is that the person that owned it made a commitment to the township
Right.
that they were going to move everybody into a facility that was in a mixed-use area.
Correct.
And this was a year after he did
Correct.
commit to doing it, then didn't do it, then promised this, and then talked to the guy that owned the building. That guy did a bunch of construction to do it, and then he sold it out
He
from
sold
underneath
it.
everybody, screwed us, screwed them, and sold it to somebody else who now owns it. So there's been a lot of shady stuff done to, make promises to the town that weren't kept, and to a lot of other people in Sparta. So as far as I'm concerned, this business has over and over again showed that they don't care anything about Sparta and just about making money.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that obviously is a real concern, and I know it's a concern nationwide with a lot of these homes that, they bring in people who don't have the best interests of the residents. It's simply to churn and to make money off the most vulnerable and hurt in our society. So, in any event, hopefully we can get some type of, regulation there and assure the public that, we're doing the best we can to regulate these based upon, the laws that we have. The other item of new business is just for me personally. Folks will know that we did a Council Connect initiative, which was to meet at the library and, to address issues of the public. Speaking just for me, in light of the election season that is upon us, things will, and undoubtedly can get gray between, are you acting in your capacity as a council person, or are you acting as a public citizen during campaign season? For me personally, I don't want to have to navigate those waters. So I'm pausing my attendance at Council Connect until after the election. I just don't want it to be an issue, although I will make clear that we as council members in our personal capacity can campaign for whoever we want to, as long as we aren't using, township property. And so, but for me personally, I don't want to have that issue of where you were campaigning for this candidate and you were using township property. I'd rather just, that's just for me and my risk tolerance. And I don't have any judgment on anyone who decides, well, I'm still going to do it. I think that's completely fine and they have a free speech right. I just know for me, I'm not going to do that. But I thought I needed to know if someone says, well, you were supposed to be at Council Connect on October 30th and you weren't there. Well, I'll resume it after the election, but I just wanted to let folks know. I do know there has been some interest in additional joining of the Sparta Film Committee. I think I do, at this time, I want to see what happens with whether we get the designation or not before I start adding a bunch of other people. That doesn't mean people can't attend who aren't interested in it, but I think we need to kind of get to grips with, what are we doing next now that we got approval? But, so there will be additional appointments, but we have a great group now. I want to continue that. I want to take see where we are. Also to get a better understanding of what we're going to need, once we get the designation in these studios and, start coming knocking, making sure we have the infrastructure in place because, we need to be on top of that. So, for right now, I'd like to just pause adding people, but, I can always change my mind if we really see a felt need, but we have a great group right now. So I just wanted to let people know that. And with that, that is all the new or unfinished business I have. Councilman Blumetti.
So just wanted to, it's actually unfinished business. I just wanted to correct something before that was inaccurate, right? It was about, I heard some information, didn't want it to sit out there. It was about the open space community survey. I wanted to make sure there wasn't a misperception out there. The question around desired outcomes for the open space plan, updating sports field was 3%, and for what recreational facilities could use an upgrade, 8 people said add a turf field. So I just want to make sure there wasn't a misperception out there around extremely large number with the turf field.
It was 160 out of 344, was it not?
No, no, those are additive.
Those
build
are
upon
what?
Those are additive. They build upon each other. So the dog parks is the largest, splash pad, pickleball courts. So it's just that sliver at the top. So I just didn't want there to be a misperception out there around, which apparently
I
was
can
a
tell you at the one on,
contested
okay. so
conversation.
I'll tell you that the one in 2019 is very clear. That's on the website. And that one had almost 1,800 people respond to it. So if anyone is interested in looking at the data that came out of that report, you can find it on the Sparta Township website, www.spartanj.org.
Great, thanks.
That's it? Yeah. I got a couple things to offer. Excuse me, first I need a drink. First, I'd like to thank everyone who provided input and for their spirited discussion of the Ungerman Field resolution. I think that's healthy. It's kind of why I wanted this job. I think discussing policy is fun, and I appreciate everybody's input into that, and it was helpful to see everybody's different opinions. And I just, to me, it makes it clear that, what I owe every voter in town is my time and my effort and my best judgment, and that's what I hope to give and what I believe I gave. Issue was raised that we had started on a program of installing historical markers around different historical points in our town and at structures. We had initial funding for that. Since then, I believe we have 2 or 3 that came in, maybe more, and the funding had run out. And I believe there is a additional funding required of $1,816 to install the remaining historical markers. Do I have those numbers?
That's correct.
Ballpark correct? So I guess I'd like to see if there's an appetite in the council to approve those expenses and what the vehicle is for that.
What line item did
So,
it come out of, Dan?
Mary Ann Francisco from the Historical Society, she and former Mayor Dave
Yeah.
Smith had started this. And when the signs, et cetera, put those stainless steel plaques together, the DPW had installed them, and you'll see them up at the Van Kirk Museum with the concrete posts. There's one at the Presbyterian Church. There's one at the Mohawk School. There's another one, I forgot. So these were established. So apparently, the program that they had started also included 3 other locations, White Deer Plaza, Lake Mohawk Country Club, and Lake Mohawk Boardwalk, where they wanted to establish these historical markers. Signs, et cetera, in the jug handle, he had been making those, and then the DPW guys would install them. So as Dan had noted, it was $1,800 in cost. There is a line in the council budget for Historical Society, and there is funding there to pay for this if you guys so choose.
Do we need to formally do anything? Can we just say yes? Or we don't need to do anything formal, do we?
No, the administrator has those funds available
Right.
too.
I asked, because I know Dan was in correspondence with Mary Ann, and I just needed to get consensus from the council on if they still had a desire to finish the project with the last 3 markers.
Yeah, I personally do.
Agreed.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
While we're on the topic of disbursements, Dan has really spent a lot of time preparing for this trip to Greece and representing us in the sister cities. But he has a lot of things, including that replica of that flag that he is bringing with him. And
Unless
don't
I
think-
get to take that down without anybody looking.
You got to get past Roxanne first, and that is not going to happen.
There are cameras in the room. so-
But I'm just saying, I think that if there's any cost, I mean, originally he had looked at shipping it out there. It was going to be very expensive to do that. He's giving his own time. He's flying out there on his own. He's representing us. So I think if he absorbs any costs, the council line item should cover it.
Thank you.
I don't
I'm
think
happy
he
to
should
do
have
it,
to
but thank
be responsible for it on his own.
Yeah, I decided it would cost like $1,000 to ship the stuff.
Yeah.
So I packed another suitcase. So
So,
we're good.
I mean,
but
it's
thank you.
not going to
Appreciate it.
cost that because I
Luggage
think,
fee? Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But now
60
instead of
bucks, I don't
1,000,
know.
but he's still got to lug it all the way over I mean, you know what I mean? And
Fine.
so I think that we should absorb that cost. That's
I'll let
all.
my wife carry it. That's fine. Is she watching? I'm joking.
That could get really expensive down the road.
That could get really expensive. That's true. But thank you, Chris, Councilwoman Quinn. And finally, I'd like to put make a motion to put on the agenda for the August 20, for today's meeting, that we fly in the next council meeting, which is September 10? Yeah, so make a motion for the September 10th meeting that we fly the commemorative flag of the U.S. Navy on October 13th to commemorate the founding of the U.S. Navy that was requested by Commander Litchfield of the VFW. So we need to vote to put it on the agenda for the next meeting, which will be September 10. So I make a motion that we do that.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Abstain?
Abstain. Why do we vote on it twice?
We have to
Just to
vote to
put
put
on
it on
the
the
agenda.
agenda, and then once it's on the agenda, we vote on it. That's the
Yeah,
process
we
we
have to
came up
vote
with.
to put it on the
We
agenda.
don't vote to put anything else on the agenda.
No, but the way this
What specifically is provided for under the ordinance when we adopted it.
Township.
this is an exception.
Okay, so the ayes have it, 2 abstentions on putting this on the September 10th agenda to fly the Navy flag on October 13th.
Thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay. All right, anything else? If not, I will make a motion to adjourn. What?
We have
Open
Oh,
public session.
Public comment, sorry, I always
Public
miss that one
comment.
because it's so late. That's why I can't find my,
Danny's chomping at the bit.
yeah. All right, sorry about that, Jenny. So we're now at the final open to public session. This is on any topic. And so again, state your name for the record. Also, please keep your comments to 5 minutes and any public comment. Okay, Sean, sorry. Mr. Landy.
Everyone, Scott Landy over here. I was meeting here today. I've been working with Kevin and all the great team at Subversion. I don't know if I'm on the council. I think I was possibly mentioned to come here.
On the committee.
On the committee.
committee.
That's right, excuse me.
Yeah.
So I prepared a heartfelt letter, overviewing my qualifications and thanking the council for their consideration. I think it's a pretty good letter here, so I'd like to read it for the
Please
council.
do.
Thank you.
In the next 4 minutes, 22 seconds.
I just want to sing the praises of Kevin and his whole team, Vinny, just Kevin, Sean, my brother Sean, another member of the committee. Thank you for the honor of serving on this committee. As a Sparta native and local filmmaker, my journey began right here in this community. Since 2007, I've dedicated myself to the craft of filmmaking. In 2008, while still a student at Sparta High School, my peers and I created a feature-length film that was screened right at our own very Sparta theater, that Sparta Theater. One of the scenes actually was filmed right outside this courtroom, right in the foyer area. I remember the thrill of the premiere, seeing it sell out every seat and every showtime, a testament to the power of community and the passion we all have for storytelling. Makes me think stories are important, stories are integral. Look at the conversation between turf and field today. 2 passionate groups arguing a single point, the same point, different viewpoints. Stories are a part of us. Film is not just a medium, but a mirror into our souls, a vehicle for storytelling that connects us to each other and the broader human experience. As I take on this responsibility, I'm reminded of the words of Tennyson in his poem Ulysses. We are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven. We are that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. These lines resonate deeply in me as they speak to the resilience and determination needed in any creative endeavor. We may face challenges, but our collective will and passion will drive us forward. Together we will strive, seek, find, and above all, not yield in our commitment to fostering a vibrant film community in this town. Thank you again, Mayor Clark, and members of the council and residents of Sparta for this opportunity. I look forward to working with you all to create something truly special.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully it won't fall this time. Good evening, Kathy Ebbingshausen, Scudder's Road. A few months ago, I brought up the nationwide opioid settlement, the $50 billion in funds that we're expecting to be paid out over the next 18 years. Tonight, I wanted to continue that dialogue. Councilwoman Quinn and I have traded a couple of emails over the last few months. She let me know when we spoke about it publicly last time that the Municipal Alliance, of which yourself and Chief McCarrick are co-chairs, are handling this. Today, I sent a summary of my initial questions via email. I hope you received it. It was right before the meeting, so I'll assume you have it.
Sorry.
So look for that in your inbox. And tonight, I'd like to read aloud that email. So I'll give you a preview of it, or give you the whole of it here in public, just to keep the public, those in the room, those in the council who aren't a part of that email, those that are on the online stream, apprised of our communications. As you know, the town has an enormous responsibility to spend the opioid settlement funds in a way that honors those who have lost their lives to the opioid crisis, helps those who are actively addicted, and works to prevent the future individuals from becoming addicted. If opioid addicted people die, they never get to be a productive citizen for their community. I'm certain that you feel the gravity of this topic and are actively working to make positive changes in our community at every opportunity. For this, I thank you and the members of the Municipal Alliance Subcommittee. And thank you for committing to transparency on this work so that the citizens of Sparta can be informed and proud of the work that you are doing. This all being said, I have a list of initial questions that I have enumerated in this email, and I will read aloud. There are 9 questions, so hopefully I can get them in 2.5 minutes. Question 1 is, Sparta Township has so far received over $53,000 as part of, from now up till March 2024. And I did ask this question last time, where has this money been spent thus far? Number 2, you stated that there's not a specific day in which the monies are put into trust for Sparta by the county. The question I have there is, what is the process to notify the council as a whole when those monies are received, if there is one? Question 3, what steps have been taken in the 2 years thus far to establish a repeatable process on receiving, notifying, and deciding what the monies will be spent on for the year? Number 4, knowing that there is expected to be over 274, there's expected to be over 274,000 given to the town between now and 2038. What steps will be taken to put into place proactive plans to utilize those funds 100% in the following categories: prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and recovery? Something occurred to me listening to the discussion tonight regarding the sober living homes that we've been dealing with for a couple of years now. I do wonder if there's an opportunity there for those funds. I'm not sure to what extent those sober living homes are being used for, but it possibly could be used for. Those funds could be earmarked for some sort of mitigation for that. I don't know. Just a thought as I stood here tonight listening to that topic be raised again. Number 5, how is and will the public be informed of these plans and expenditures? Question 6, is there any resolution or approval process that has been brought to the council in the past or will be in the future for review of proposals to allocate these funds for expenditures? Question 7, oh shoot, I'm out of time. What experts are being utilized to provide guidance to the council and to the subcommittee to create plans to utilize these funds? 8, what experience do the members of the subcommittee and council have with addiction and health policy that will help guide you to use this money well? Are you consulting with other municipal alliances in New Jersey on ways that they are managing these funds and the choices they are making to spend them in meaningful ways? And thank you for your time and consideration tonight.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kathy.
Answer them now or answer them in email?
If you'd like, I could touch on,
We can answer them on email. I think that's fine. Or we can, I mean, it's totally fine.
doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful just to answer the via email, and I think this is not to say that anything untoward is happening. I think that's not what's going on here. I think it's mainly that we have a kind of duty to make sure that these funds are being spent responsibly. I'm not saying they're not. I know that I do have some experience with how, when you have litigation, a lot of times in the cases that I do, we have money left over in the settlement and that no one's collected. And we then face the situation kind of like what we do here is, well, what do we do with this money that we have? And there's a whole doctrine called the Cypre doctrine, which is about you can give the residual amounts, but it has to be in light of the purpose of the litigation in the first place. Right? You can't just take the money that, for example, I had a case involving nurses who were had their wages suppressed, and we had a couple $1 million left over, and we had to decide how to spend that money. Well, we couldn't say, well, we're just going to spend it on carpenters. We donated it to an organization that helped train nurses, and so it sort of helped further the purposes of the actual litigation. And so I think the goal here is to, go back to what the opioid case was about and what it addresses, and to make sure that we're spending the money to help those who were suffering from opioid addiction through the fraudulent practices of Purdue and others. And there's other ways you can spend it on, I get that. I just want to make sure that, and I particularly have a duty to that as a member of the recovery community who, by the grace of God, I'll celebrate 20 years in November. I want to make sure, and I've seen the success stories, and a lot of things that happen with people in recovery is when they get out, they don't have a network. They've burned every bridge that they've had, their family, their community, but they want to stay sober. And there's programs available to help them who want to help themselves. I'm a firm believer that God helps those who help themselves. And so we can use these funds to help these people, and I know that we're doing that. I know we give a lot of money to the Center for Preventive Care, who does this. I just want to make sure that's a lot of what we're doing, and there's other ways to do it. And I know the Municipal Alliance is coming up with good ideas how to do it. So I appreciate the spotlight on this and the transparency that's needed. So thank you.
Yep, and Jeff, we can get together and put together the, rather than sending two separate emails, we could just put our thoughts together and answer if you want. Or if you want to do your own and I'll do my own, that's fine too.
Yeah, if you could send me I tried to write down the questions, but.
I got them all written down in my book. And she said she sent an email, so. I do want to let you know also, there's reporting that's done every single year. The other thing that's really tricky about this money is, it sounds great to say there's $234,000, which is what it might be after 18 years. The problem is that number has not been confirmed for us yet. We're not sure. The other thing is, it comes in literally in drips of drabs. So it could be $1,500. And then 4 months
If I
later,
could just touch on that.
yeah, maybe you
There
could
is
just,
quarterly reporting that our department does. Police department, under the CFO, was put in charge of the opioid settlement fund. Not the whole fund goes to the Municipal Alliance.
right.
There is, again, quarterly reporting that we do to the county, who is holding it as a whole for the county, and then reports back to the state. We have no clue how much we are getting. I could go downstairs tomorrow and there'll be 5 checks. 2 months from now, there'll be 2 checks, and they're all different amounts. we have really no clue. So it's very new to us, and we do a lot of consulting with the county on how to spend it and what to utilize it for. So again, that's just a few of her questions, but when I get the rest via email, I can answer them. Absolutely.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it. Anyone else for public comment?
Jenny Derrick's Tap into Sparta. I have a list. Sorry, going back, this is an issue that's been going on for more than a year that I've been talking about, missing minutes. May not sound that exciting, but the Environmental Commission has 2 minutes listed for 2024 total. 5 of 13 in 2023, and 7 of 15 meetings are reported in 2022. The planning board is just as bad, 5 of 18 in 2024, 8 of 19 in 23. Zoning board, 0 for 10. No meeting minutes for this year. What we do find when we finally get something at the planning board is transcripts. Transcripts are not minutes. Hundreds of pages of transcripts do not substitute for minutes. Something needs to be done. You are violating OPMA. This has been going on for more than a year. I know that you're spending money on staff to do transcripts, but that is not minutes. I know it was discussed, and I appreciate the discussion at the last planning board meeting. Something needs to be done. This has been going on for too long. Is there a 9/11 event going to happen in Sparta, or is it just at the county?
I'm not aware of one in Sparta.
But I think might just
Are
get
you
your
asking
questions
me?
out and then we can.
Oh, yeah.
So I think
Do we have an,
Never had come to me. I'm not sure if the council wants to do a 9/11 event. I know there's several 9/11 events at the county. One at Picatinny Arsenal.
I was just curious if there's one at Sparta, there's one at the council.
Maybe we could talk to Pete.
Well,
and see. We did one here the one year.
Couple of years
We've
you've
one
done it.
Several years, yes.
Yeah, private. Okay.
A longer question, do we have an update on the Brownfield Solar Project? And the Station Park report from AOL, about AO Polymer, I'd like to, at some point, talk
That's
with
going to
you.
be online. That's what we were
Yeah.
just talking
We're going to
about.
post that on.
It's going to be posted.
Thank you. So the minutes essentially is a huge issue. And then do we have an update on the Brownfield Solar Project?
Jenny, on the solar project, that's ongoing, as you know, and we've been working with CEP Renewables on basically the mitigation in our efforts to close the landfill. That's still in process right now. That is the holdup, is the mitigation of the 2-acre wetland property. We're actively working with DEP to come to an agreement solution on mitigating that property. And then once it's mitigated, we'll close it and they'll install their solar system. But that is the holdup.
And what's happening with the minutes?
make sure you use the mic.
I want to know what's happening with the minutes. I wasn't aware that we're 0 for 10 at the zoning board. And if we are, we shouldn't be. I mean, we talk all the time about mitigating our litigation risks. We're walking right into a buzzsaw of an OPMA lawsuit if we don't get these minutes done. So, there may be expenditures, but, you have to balance that at what the expenditure is going to be when someone comes down and says, you're 0 for 10 at the zoning board, you have this many meeting at the planning board. What do we know? What's the holdup? Is it funding? Is it staff? I think that's an important issue.
I'm working on it. It's all of the above. It's funding, it's staff, it's satisfying what people want when it comes to the record of the meeting. We have recorded YouTube streams that document what we're doing right now. Then we have the transcriber services, which are verbatim. And then there is the traditional minutes that are usually summaries of it. And I think Jenny likes the summaries of it, which take
It's not a question of my preference. It's what's required.
Right.
You can't search a transcript. You can't even ask the planning board members or the zoning board members to read the transcripts to know what they're approving when they're approving them. You can't look back for history, which is important, and that's why we have minutes. It's not just my preference.
Okay, I wasn't finished.
I'm sorry?
With it. I understand. I'm trying to satisfy all of them, because at this day and age, that's what we're offering, is just all of those, all right? And with my staff levels at what they're at right now, I don't have the resources to accommodate all that. And as I started here, we were way behind. We rebuilt the planning board, and the planning board. We rebuilt the planning department and my construction department. They're all new people, all right? They're all getting up in gear. I am working on it, and I've told you, we've hired these transcribers on the transcribers part, and I know that satisfies some of it. It is an effort. I'll be honest with you, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna post on our website a position of a retiree or a young person who could come in and help me with these minutes and get that done, because that is the position that I'm in. And I will have to find the resources to pay for this, to get caught up on minutes like this. Because, and so Jenny, if you could help me, maybe locate somebody that you know would be able to help us, and we solve this problem together, that would be great. Meanwhile, I am trying to catch up on the previous minutes from the past on that. But unfortunately, it's just not an easy problem to solve right now. And I'm open to suggestions on help. When I learned more about this problem, I thought about it. I'm like, well, maybe I put out a posting, and maybe I can get somebody out there. As you all know, the council minutes are done by Mary Coe, our former clerk. So those are like the potential solutions for this. And
Chris had a good point. I mean, you literally could drop the transcripts into AI and create summaries in 2 seconds.
Lester said the same thing.
So
we can look into that.
Yeah,
I literally
we can
just
talk
texted
about
that. Yeah, I mean.
So
have to be
it's not for lack of effort or anything. We'll get there. Just
To be checked.
you can keep inquiring, and I'm trying to get on top of it, but we'll get there. Good suggestion, Josh. Thank you.
Chris's idea.
And Chris.
Thank you.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Anyone else for public comment?
Hi, Celeste Luciano, 9 Oakwood Trail. I'm here as a member of the planning board and a member of the master plan subcommittee. One of the things that I did want to expand, we are having a master plan subcommittee meeting at the second week of September. We are hoping at that meeting to approve and roll out in the following week a website that will expand on the progress in terms of the master plan and how that's moving forward, what direction the subcommittee is moving forward. Hopefully subsequent 2 weeks after the rollout of the actual website, we're looking to put out a survey. So I just kind of want to put everyone on notice that this is coming. Please stay tuned. We want the public's input. We're looking for council input. We're looking for everyone to be a part of this process, because we're really proud of the work that we're doing and we really want to push forward full steam ahead. So just want to make the announcement. Stay tuned. It's coming within the next 2 weeks. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member of the public wishing to be heard? All right, with that, we now have the time for adjournment. I'm sorry it was premature last time. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you for everyone for coming out and for speaking. And thank you, Corey.